Orange and black. Goodbye! This is Sports Phone KNBR. Sponsored by Industrial Metal Supply on the Sports Leader. Check the live stream on YouTube at KNBR 1045. Here's your host, Dieter Kurtenbach.
Oh boy, let's just get into 415-808-5627. 415-808-KNBR is the number. It's Sports Phone KNBR after that. Goodness gracious, this baseball team. They're putting us through our paces early, folks. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that right now. If you want to get in, sound off, do whatever the hell it is you need to do right now. Just vent. We're here for you. We're here for you until 9 p.m. Again, 415-808-5627, 415-808-KNBR. Call in, text in. Kyle Haar will take care of you on the other side. I'm Dieter Kurtenbach. That was a last-place performance from a last-place team. I don't know of a nice way to put it. This team is 6-11, and they get good enough pitching tonight, right? Some nights, and most nights when the Giants lose, it just all goes to hell. Like when they lose hard. And tonight was just a hard loss. Not in the sense of they let their hands off the rope and they let it all get away from them. They couldn't hit, they couldn't pitch, they couldn't play defense. How many times have we said that this year? At least 6 or 7. Tonight was a night where they did play good defense. Tonight was a night where they did get good pitching. Tonight was a night where they couldn't hit again. And if you give up 2 solo home runs and 1 other hit at the Great American Small Park in Cincinnati, you should be walking away with a victory, right? That's what a good baseball team would do. And right now, the Giants, just taking it for what it is, they are not a good baseball team. Let me run you through some numbers real fast, and then we'll get into the game, and we'll get into your calls and texts. 9 of their 11 losses this year, they scored 2 runs or fewer. 6 out of 11, they've scored 1 run or fewer. That's anemic. Anemic. And let's just highlight how anemic it is. 9 home runs, last in baseball. 5 stolen bases, last in baseball. 34 walks taken, last in baseball. 16 grounded into double plays, worst in baseball. 7th inning or later, 575 OPS, that's last in the National League. Only my Chicago White Sox are worse. And that, by the way, same record. Same record as the White Sox. That's not good. They're second worst in the NL against righties, 610 OPS. And you can't even say that they're unlucky when the ball's in play because they're 13th in baseball in batting average on balls in play. So when they do make contact, decent enough things happen. They just don't make enough contact. They just don't get on base enough. And today was the perfect encapsulation of it. Yeah, they had 7 hits. How many of them presented a real and present danger to the Cincinnati Reds? Willy Adames hits a monster solo home run. Willy Adames is holding up his end of the bargain right now. Moving him to leadoff was a really good move. It looked like it was paying immediate dividends when they first did it. They should stick with that until it stops working. Willy Adames, star of the game. Congratulations. But everybody else is just not pulling their weight in this lineup. And it was a lineup that, silly me, coming into the season, I thought, man, this might be the best Giants lineup they've had since, well, man, maybe even 2014. And I suppose because it is April 14th, there's plenty of time for that to materialize. But they got a long, long way to go because right now they look like the worst lineup in baseball. And as the broadcast crew, as Dave and Rizzo and FP and Sean all broke down, like tonight was a night to just put the ball in the air and watch it sail away. It's the Great American Small Park. It was hot. It was humid. Robbie Ray couldn't stand any of the baseballs that he was tossed all night. Just hated them. Couldn't stand it. Tonight was the night to have a little bit of a fireworks show. And this is a lineup that, in theory, should be able to put the ball in the air at a pretty high clip. And yet, they just couldn't get anything going. It was a miserable performance by a team that's put together a lot of miserable performances. Giants tonight, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position, but 7 left on base. So where was the threats? Where was the threats for this team? Robbie Ray goes 5 innings, 2 hits, both solo home runs, 4 walks, not great, but they didn't burn him. 6 strikeouts. Robbie Ray's pitching well. This starting staff is pitching well. Tonight was a night where the bullpen was awesome. Awesome. Killian gets into a little bit of a jam, works his way out of it. Keaton Wynn comes in, bang, done. Door closed. Keaton Wynn, dude. And Ryan Walker comes in, and contact on three at-bats, but all 3 of them turned into outs. Again, Giants played good defense today. Luis Arraez making a dinner reservation for me and Crow, especially with the way he's playing second base. A lot of other teams in baseball wondering, who should have let him play second base? He looks like the Giants' best defender right now. I think some of the advanced stats show it. We'll see how it goes moving forward, but you can't complain about what you're getting from him. He had 3 hits tonight. Again, were any of them dangerous? Did any of them make the Cincinnati Reds feel something? No. And if you're not going to hit home runs, then you have to string together hits. You got to get ducks on the pond and have timely hits. There's no ducks on the pond, and this team doesn't hit well enough to string together hits. They haven't all season. And we can blame the bottom of the order, 707 chiming in. Patrick Bailey has a 327 OPS. Not batting average, not on base percentage. OPS, that's his on base percentage plus his slugging percentage, is 327. That is so below replacement level, it's subterranean. That guy's batting 8th for you. The center fielder, be it Harrison Bader with his just unbelievably bad 337 OPS, right? Keeping Patrick Bailey company there. Or Oliva, that's a wasted spot in the order right now. At least those guys can play some defense. I suppose you could say the same for Bailey. And I don't want to pin it all on Elliot Ramos because it's not all on Elliot Ramos. Pretty much everyone in this lineup stinks something fierce right now. And remember, I'm someone who changes diapers, so I know stink. But Elliot Ramos has a 508 OPS right now. He's batting 226. He hasn't hit a home run this year. He's gone from middle of the order to bottom of the order, and he's fitting in quite nicely with Bader and Bailey. He's looking like the third disgusting brother right now. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of what's going on with Ramos. And I think I got it. Elliot Ramos last year was in the 77th percentile when it came to bat speed in all of baseball. This is a cool thing that we can look at now with some of these advanced stats. Some of these advanced stats, they're taking you in one direction that doesn't really mean anything, totally diluting you into a train of thought that doesn't actually translate into baseball. Some of this stuff is, paralysis by analysis. But this is an informative stat. And it's very telling if you were trying to reverse engineer why Elliot Ramos is making a full residence on the struggle bus right now. He ain't getting off at the end of service. He stays on the bus until service starts up again the next day on the struggle bus. Last year, Elliot Ramos, 77th percentile in bat speed, 74 miles per hour, average bat speed. This year, 71. That might not sound like a big deal, but think about if a pitcher were to lose 3 miles per hour on their fastball. That would be DEFCON 1 for a team, for a pitcher, for the fan base. If Logan Webb goes out there, someone who sits 95, 96, and suddenly is topping out at 92, you're making an appointment with Dr. James Andrews, Dr. Neela Tache. You're looking at some serious structural issues. Now, that's not the case when it comes to bat speed, but 3 miles per hour differentiation in bat speed is a big deal. It's a big deal. It's the difference between being able to barrel up the ball, get that sweet spot, that good launch angle, all that stuff, and a lot of lazy pop flies. I mean, it's one thing if you're Luis Arraez and you've always had a slow bat, but you have great bat-to-ball skills. When you are a power hitter, when you are somebody who's not going to come close to hitting 300, you might not even hit 250 in a good year, and now you've lost 3 miles per hour in your bat speed, we have a big issue. And I'm looking anywhere for that bat speed to pick up. But tonight, final at bat, Elliot Ramos goes up, 3 pitches, 3 strikes, get on out of here. And his final swing is 71 miles per hour. Right on the number for his average this season. 35th percentile in baseball. I don't think 508 OPS directly translates to that, but I don't know if you can be a good hitter if you're a power guy and 65% of hitters in baseball swing the bat faster than you. You need to do something special when it comes to squaring it up. You need to do something special when it comes to barreling it up. You need to have Luis Ariz bat-to-ball skills to make up for that level of deficiency when it comes to swing speed. Because this is a power game. Power in, power out. And right now the Giants don't have any power. And one of the guys that they should be turning to, as Rafael Devers is still going through it a little bit with his 526 OPS, as Matt Chapman is lacing the ball, but he's running through some bad luck. When you have a guy like Ariz in the lineup, when you're leaning on a guy like Casey Schmidt, who's a glove-first player to be your DH because he's frankly the best thing you got going in the lineup outside of Willie Adames. When you have a guy like Jung-Hoo Lee, who is not a big-time power hitter, when the bottom of your lineup is as bad night in, night out as the Giants has been, and as you should have expected to a certain degree. The Bader thing is shocking. It's shocking that Bailey is this low, but no one expected Patrick Bailey to have a good hitting season. That's not what he's here for. And there's a larger conversation to be had about that. Bader, Oliva, it's not as if these were guys that you're putting in the middle of the lineup and saying, hey, carry us home, baby. These were always bottom of the order dudes, and you thought that Bader maybe had a little bit more pop than that. But when you have a guy like Devers struggling, when you have two guys in your lineup that are not there to provide power in Jung-Hoo Lee and Luis Ariz, when Chapman is in one of his bad luck streaks, as he so often seems to be, because it's 2 weeks on, 4 weeks off with Matt Chapman, at least when it comes to being at the plate, and then you have a bottom of the lineup that built-in struggle, you can't also have Elliot Ramos swinging the bat 3 miles per hour slower than he usually does and providing the Giants absolutely nothing at the plate. He's supposed to be your insurance policy in this case, and right now he's the liability for the Giants in the lineup. And again, it's not all on him. It's not all on him. But when everyone else is struggling, you're looking for the guys who are struggling most in terms of differentiation from last year. And right now, it's hard to say that's not Elliot Ramos after we get past Rafi Devers, who at least we've seen put some really good swings on the ball and give, the Giants a chance. You could see him maybe, just maybe, pulling out of it, and he has an injury excuse to a certain degree. So that's where the Giants are at. This is a tough one to take. It's a tough one to take. You can't just chalk it up and go get him next time off of this one. Because again, you got the pitching. You got the defense. And now it's just a big microscope on top of a lineup that frankly probably should have been coming under more scrutiny. And it's not to say that it's been under scrutinized. It's just last place baseball. And it can't continue. It can't continue. As much as we want to, point to the fact that we are less than 20 games in, because we are. First impressions matter, and first impressions stick with you. And right now, the Giants are making one hell of a first impression, and that is not a positive statement. And they're digging themselves a hole. That's the bigger kicker. They're really digging themselves a hole right now. Not to say that they were ever going to compete for the division, but they're 6 games back of the Dodgers already. They've only played 17 games. They're 6 games back already. They have a worse record than the Rockies. That won't continue. But they have the last place record in the National League. And again, you come back to it. It's the lineup. It's the lineup. Not everything's been perfect. The defense has had rough nights. Pitching has had tough nights. The bullpen is still hold your breath. But when you go 2 runs or fewer in 9 of your 11 losses, or 1 run or fewer in 6 of your 11, that looks like an offensive issue. When you're last in baseball in home runs, when you're last in baseball in walks, forgive me for questioning if you're just going to ramp it all up. If the walks were high and the home runs were low, I could live with it. Okay, you're not a power hitting team. Milwaukee Brewers won a lot of games last year, just getting guys on, stealing bases, getting some timely hits. A lot of ducks on the pond. And you're not going to get them all home, but if you play good ball, contact hitters, lacing doubles, stuff like that, you can live that way. You can win baseball games that way. You can be a damn good baseball team that way. In many ways, it's more aesthetically pleasing. But when you don't get ducks on the pond, when you don't hit home runs, You don't steal bases. How are you supposed to manufacture runs outside of asking a lineup that isn't hitting to string together 3-4 hits in a row? It's a big ask. It's a big ask, and things have to change. And I don't even know where to start on the changes because it's not like on this roster, there are guys sitting on the bench and you say, let's go to him. They're already trying a guy like Casey Schmidt as a full-time DH because, hey, it worked for a minute. That's where we're at. Devers has to get better. Elliot Ramos has to find 3 miles per hour. Adames has to stay hot. Chapman has to stick with it. 2 hard hit balls today, just bad luck. You got to get something from somebody else. Just one, maybe 2. Maybe I'll be greedy. 2 more guys. Because this lineup should not be this bad. But now I have to question earnestly if this lineup can even be good for the remainder of this year. 415-808-5627. If you think I'm being too harsh, let me have it. This is an equal opportunity show for you tonight. 415-808-KNBR is the number. We'll get to calls and texts on the other side. Kurtenbach hanging out with you until 9 p.m. on the Sports Leader.
Now, from the O'Donnell Financial Group Sports Desk. Learn more at odfigroup.com. O'Donnell Financial Group, because planning is a process, not a product.
Giants' offensive struggles continue. Team loses its 3rd in a row, falling 2-1 in Cincinnati. We're reacting on Sports Phone KNBR, the Sports Leader.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
I would think a theme would be for us is Rafi does a good job of drawing a rare walk there. We haven't done that much, but tonight, I mean, I look at the numbers from my angle. They threw strikes. And then last time we talked about, the last game too, there's moments where, again, Willie hits a double. We talked about Rafi using the 2-hole, hit a ball off the wall, but those things aren't together. And then tonight, when we were looking to put things together, a couple double plays that really hurt. A ball goes off Singer's foot, that hurts. So nothing was really tacked on, together as a group.
Sounds like Giants baseball to me. Sounds like the same story we've been hearing all year with the San Francisco Giants offense. And Tony, listen, we'll get into Tony a little bit later. Plenty of people want to pile in on Tony. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Maybe we'll talk about it in a moment here too, as we go to the phone lines. But they had a walk on Saturday, didn't walk on Sunday, had one walk tonight. I know that it's not very fun. It's not exactly aesthetically pleasing to see a bunch of guys going up there and looking to get on base via walk. But I don't think it's as simple as, they're just throwing strikes. Why is it that every team in baseball just throws a disproportionate amount of strikes against the San Francisco Giants? Is it because there's a lot of swings and misses? Is it because these guys aren't attacking, aren't striking fear into pitchers so they can attack the zone? Let's get into it. Phone lines are ablazed. If you want to get in, though, we got plenty of time for you tonight. 415-808-5627. 415-808-5627. That spells KNBR, an alphanumeric code, which, trying to decode this Giants offense is tricky. Let's go to Joe in Albany. He wants to talk Giants. We're here for you tonight, Joe. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Your intro is great, and I'm glad the show is on until 9 o'clock.
Yeah, we're going to need all of it.
Awesome. I'm seeing the Giants are already 5 games under 500. So what happens when it hits 10? When it hits 10, do we just press the whole button? Right now Bader looks terrible. A 2-year contract for $20 million. The offense looks they have no skills. What are you going to do? They're not good hitters. Rafael Devers, this guy's not worth the money. And look at James Tibbs over in LA hitting 7 home runs in 8 games. That guy's going to be the Dodgers are going to be able to flip him, or he's going to be up in the major leagues. I think he's going to be better than Bryce Eldridge. I think Buster Posey made a big mistake getting rid of him. I think right now it's looking like Buster Posey as the president of baseball operations. I think the Giants need to look at another president named Peter Bendix of the Florida Marlins, the guy that he's running the show for the Marlins. I think he'd be much better off. The Giants would be much better off having him instead of Buster Posey, because right now Buster Posey jumped to the head of the line. He never did player evaluation. He never did scouting. So right now he's not doing either one, and he's relying on other people to do his job, and it's not working. And we hired him for him to do the job. We didn't hire him to go and have other people do, like Zach Manassian. Zach Manassian is the one who brought Lee here, and that's not working out. And then Buster Posey signed Matt Chapman to a 6-year, $150 million deal when nobody else in the major leagues was going to give him more than 3. So that's his friend that everybody knows he likes Matt Chapman. So he gives him 3 extra years. That's fine. It's your deal. But now he's stuck here and we're stuck with him. I'm not really all that impressed with Adames myself. He hit a hanging slider today and then struck out the next time, and he was showboating down by 1. Look at the Reds. They outplayed the Giants today. They beat Robbie Ray. What did the Giants do today? They didn't do anything except make excuses, and they're in last place. And they're paying a lot of money. And if Giants ownership is okay with that, then let's just have this same show for the next 5-6 years, because they're not even playing at 500 right now. They're 5 under 500. So this is going to get, like Jim Harbaugh said, this is about to get real fast. Because if they go on a 5-game losing streak and they're 10 under, now what? Now what's Tony going to do? Because now it's looking like Tony is a gimmick. because he's not out there helping the hitters. He can't change these hitters and make them better hitters. Buster Posey can't do it. So who are they relying on? That guy from Toronto? Guess what? Toronto's struggling right now. So that magic man you brought from Toronto to bring that magic over here, they ain't doing nothing. They're doing the same thing the Giants are doing, which is
maybe
zero.
because he's not there, to be fair, right? Pointing at Toronto, who was in the World Series last year, and then saying, hey, we stole their hitting coach, and now they suck. Maybe there is a correlation there, but the rest of your points are extremely salient, Joe, and I appreciate them deeply. We'll try to go point by point here, and we do want to get to everybody else, so hang on the line. Let's start with the Tibbs thing, okay? I don't think that there was a single soul when the Rafael Devers trade was made that said, oh, I don't know about that. I mean, this Joe Tibbs guy. And to say that, oh, he has 7 home runs in 9 games, not for the Dodgers, for whatever the hell they call the Oklahoma City AAA team right now. So let's all pump the brakes here, just like we need to pump the brakes when it comes to Eldridge and what he's doing in Sacramento. Not that I wouldn't be thrilled with him being up, but the idea of, okay, here's this guy in AAA, and he was the savior, and Buster sent him away. Well, also the Boston Red Sox sent him away after they got him in the trade for Kyle Harrison. So the idea that, James Tibbs is some sort of savior here, it could turn out that way. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm just saying when the Devers deal was made, nobody was saying, oh, well, that's a lot to give up for Devers. In fact, quite the opposite was said almost universally. And again, if you were the person there, I'm going to need to see some receipts who pointed this out. But like when the Devers trade was made, everyone said they didn't give up much for Devers, but they had to take on that contract, right? They basically bought the contract and it didn't cost them much. And Boston is still super pissed at ownership because it's just a line of continuation that they got going on in Boston where first it was Mookie Betts, and then it was Devers, and you sign these guys to deals, and then you ship them out a year or two later when you go, I don't know if that was a good idea. That's Boston's problem. Right now, Rafi Devers is the Giants' problem. Ultimately, Rafi Devers has enough of a track record that you do have to believe it's going to turn around, and he's given you enough positive signs that it just takes a little bit. It just takes a little bit. It's too early to write off Rafi Devers for this season, given the caliber of player that he is. And it's way too early to pretend like Tibbs, who's been traded twice, is some sort of future savior because he's hitting the ball, cover off the ball in Oklahoma City. It's the PCL. Let's not pretend as if that's not, an absolute bandbox of a league. The Adames thing. Adames is the only guy who's hitting. So if that's not impressing you, fair enough. You're not going to find much love with this team. As for the showboating part, maybe we're going to get too much into a culture war thing here. I don't have a problem with it because this team needs something. This team clearly is devoid of soul right now. And how couldn't they be? They don't hit the ball. There's never rallies. There's never these galvanizing moments for the team. The way that they win is they gang up on a night where things aren't going great and it's a couple home runs. Like they don't get these big come together, big hit, big moment things. So Adames absolutely lashes one. Sure, it was a hanging slider. That's what you're supposed to do with hanging sliders. Is he supposed to apologize for hitting a bad pitch? They didn't exactly see that many of them tonight. And so then he absolutely made it happen. I don't mind that kind of stuff. People will. That's your prerogative. I much prefer watching the World Baseball Classic whenever he hits a showboat. I couldn't stand watching the U.S. because they treated the game like it was military conscription. And meanwhile, you watch the Latin American players and they look like they're having this thing called fun while playing baseball. I don't mind it. Yeah, you're down one. This team needs some juice. This team needs some spark. And I think Willy Adames, for all of his misguidedness in some cases, I think that that's what he was trying to do. We'll have to ask him, but ultimately, I don't mind it in that spot, even if it doesn't look good in retrospect. And ultimately, then the big question is, what do the Giants do if they do go 10 under, right? What happens if this thing keeps getting worse? And I'm very curious to find out because as somebody who, when Buster Posey was hired, stood out on my own. I mean, I was out there being like, are we sure this is a good idea? This guy has no experience whatsoever, and you're putting him in charge of a major league roster, top to bottom. He's the man who calls all the shots. I was standing alone. I could have used you, Joe and Albany. I could have used you when this first happened. It wasn't to say that he was going to fail. It was just to say, this is bold. That is a bold strategy. And I didn't like the optics of him already being part of ownership, especially now when you see, oh, they're spending all this money. Well, not as much as other teams, not as much as the revenue, right? And so one thing we have learned about Buster Posey, and now that he's in it, you have to take him for the actual track record that he has produced, because that's the only thing that we're going off of with Buster Posey, and it's probably too early to determine if he's good at this or not. Early returns aren't looking awesome, but here's what we have seen from the early returns. He's a button pusher. He's somebody who will go and just do something just to shake stuff up. And last year, I'm not going to remember all of them, forgive me, but Lamont Wade cuts him when they needed a button to be pushed. Go out and trade for Devers when they needed a button to be pushed. Give Bob Melvin an extension when they needed a button to be pushed. Call up Eldridge when they needed a button to be pushed. Buster Posey's out here and he's looking to push buttons because his experience is that of a player and understanding that sometimes you got to prod some guys in the clubhouse to maybe play a little bit better, to keep guys on their toes, to not get too comfortable. That's his experience. And so that's how he has generally managed this team. And I'm curious to see what happens now with a year of experience under his belt, if he's still going to be a button pusher, because we're coming up on button pushing time. And maybe that's Eldridge, though it sounds to me as if they don't want to put Eldridge in a spot where it's like, hey, save us. That's some undue pressure on a kid who's going to have a hard enough time. But I don't know what the next move is from there. I don't know what the other obvious moves are, because they came into the season with a lineup that was fundamentally failed in construction, right? You have all these righties on the bench. Could use a lefty here or there, especially in situations like today where you can, you end up in some bad matchups. Makes it very easy to manage a bullpen against them. You end up with no true first baseman on the roster. That's a bad look, especially when no one can play first base, it seems. You're in a situation now where you're using Casey Schmidt, who's supposed to be your utility glove, as your DH. So I don't know what the next button to push is. I will say that some trades have started to happen around Major League Baseball, and maybe that's the button. But I'm not sure who the hell wants anybody on the Giants, and I'm not sure that the Giants are going to be too keen to give up on any of these minor leaguers. And by the way, the system, for all of my incredulousness about system rankings and people hyping up the system in the Giants fan base, and this system's going to be number 2 or 3 at the end of the year. I can't deny there's some pretty good players in the system, and that the system is being rebuilt at a faster pace than I expected. And that is ultimately the lifeblood of any good baseball organization, is the guys that you have down at the farm. But in the meantime, you don't really have guys other than Eldridge that you can call up and say, let's do this thing. You came in with the fundamentally failed roster, or fundamentally misbalanced roster with some big holes on it. And you were expecting the guys that you thought you could count on to come through, and they're not. They're not. Save for Adames and maybe to a degree Chapman. But you were counting on Ramos. You were counting on Devers. You were counting on Jung-Hoo Lee to have a bounce back year, and he looked good today, but it's an outlier. Now you have a lineup where your best 2 hitters are Willy Adames as your leadoff guy, which it's working for him, but maybe a bit miscast there. And Luis Ariz, who does not get extra base hits. He's playing good ball. Again, Luis Ariz is setting up a reservation between me and a big old bag of crow down the line with the way he's playing defense and the way that he's hitting the ball. But he doesn't provide you any power in a power-driven league. Those are the 2 guys that you can count on right now. I don't know if that's enough to get you out of the cellar in the National League West, though the Rockies might help you out on that front. Joe, it's a great call. I appreciate it. Forgive my rambling. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to come back. Sam, Doug, and Aaron, hang with us. We're going to get to you on the other side, and we got a ton of text to get to as well. Kurtenbach hanging out until 9 p.m. on the Sports Leader.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
You know, the air in Arizona is different. You can attribute some things to that, but regardless, leaving Arizona, I wouldn't have thought that. We've got guys that got potential to do it. I don't think it's ever, no matter how good we had at cooking or don't, I don't think that's something we're going to live and die by. But I do think that there's guys with the capability of doing that. And, you know, Willie's kind of been the one guy that's been able to do it consistently out of everybody. And, you know, haven't really put a thumb on it. I mean, you don't want any extra breaks or the wind to all of a sudden pick up 5 extra mile an hour when you're hitting, but you know, there's been a couple that have been close but no cigar, but tonight's game was close but no cigar, and so you don't get one.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the air, you know, the air in Arizona. It can all change tomorrow. Can all change tomorrow. Can all change the next day. It's going to be hot in Cincinnati. Good opportunity to put some balls in the air, make something happen. But it's just not the way that the Giants have gone about it. It's just not the way that they're playing baseball right now. I have on the the play-in tournament on Prime, by the way. So if you want to watch the play-in tournament tomorrow, you have to watch it on Amazon Prime. It is the final minute of overtime. They currently have a technical difficulties banner going. They cannot broadcast the game. So banner day for Amazon. And, you know, technical difficulties. Also the motto of the San Francisco Giants this year. Just technical difficulties. This is what kills me. Their pitching staff is doing a good enough job. The bullpen is, again, still very much hold your breath. But they have thrown 93 innings from starters this year. That's first in the National League. Starters have a 4.04 ERA and a 1.31 WHIP. That's fine. It's not great. Really isn't even close to great. It's certainly not bad. If at the end of the season you got a ton of innings from your starters and you got a 4 ERA with a 1.31 WHIP, you'd be ecstatic. Ecstatic. That's real. That would be really good over $1.62, which is a hell of a lot of extrapolation from right now. And this, by the way, with Logan Webb, kind of looking like the weak link as it stands. The one thing that you could count on was Logan Webb, and he has not been someone you could count on right now with a 5.25 ERA. But he's also, by the same token, the guy that you should expect to turn it around the most. So you're getting the starting pitching. The bullpen gives you something different every night. Tonight it gave you something good. When you can't hit as like an entire lineup, that's when you get into trouble. And I worry on the upside of this. Like, okay, guys start to hit, but is it streaky or is it sustainable? Is this just a downturn that leads to an upturn that leads to another downturn like this? Or is this just a slow start? Because if it's just a super duper duper slow start, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Giants will play good baseball. They'll dig themselves out of this hole. They'll be attacking, 86, 87 wins when it's all said and done. Because it's not like it's some juggernaut in the waiting. But if we're going to basically have a team that is nothing but Matt Chapman's, 4 weeks off, 2 weeks on as a collective, one, that'd be impressive because for the first time, really, there'd be some sort of collective connective tissue with this roster. But that's not going to get it done. That's not going to get it done because as comfortable as you should feel with this starting staff, even if that maintains, the bullpen isn't good enough to cover you there. And it's not good enough numbers outside of the quantity from the starting rotation to cover you for the entire season. That's sub 500 baseball. It's sub 500 baseball when you can't hit. You have average, though, high output in terms of innings pitched starting. And I don't know what the hell's going on bullpen. That's sub 500 baseball. So which of those factors is going to change? It's a long way to go until the end of the season. Long way to go. Which of those factors is going to change? Are they going to be a team that can consistently hit and put runs on the board? Not at some elite level, not like the Yankees or something, but to the effect of, hey, you can count on 20 runs a series from this team. Is that something we can expect? Because if that's what we can expect, then you live with the starting pitching. Then you can figure out you got some time, you got some wiggle room with the bullpen. And certainly things should not stay as they stand with the lineup. But it lends itself to so many questions. And it takes us to our next caller, Sam in Arizona. You're wondering where the Giants go from here. I'm going to ask you, Sam, where do the Giants go from here?
Well, I appreciate you taking my call. So, first of all, I know we're only 10% of the way through the year, but you stole my thunder during the opening. We have no speed.
Yep.
We have no power.
Yep.
We don't hit for average, and we don't walk. The
Seems
roster
bad.
construction is brutal, in my opinion. And I'll go back to Buster. We're in the memory-making business. This is a horrific team to watch. And I know when teams struggle offensively, they look terrible. This team looks about as bad as any team I've ever watched. But again, we're only 10% of the way through. But I've seen enough from Ramos. I've seen enough from Lee. I've frankly seen enough from Bailey. My question for you is, does this organization have the stomach to have some contracts that we've signed? Do we have the stomach to maybe release some people and bring up some players? I got to tell you, I'd rather see Grant McCray playing. I'd rather see somebody who has some power and some potential. I know he hasn't had a great, start of his career in the major leagues, but I'm looking at a team that just can't hit, and it's awful to watch. It's painful to watch, and so I guess that's really my question. Do you think this organization has the stomach and the wherewithal to say? And I'm not saying that Bader needs to go. We just signed Bader.
Right.
But, I mean, I've seen enough of Ramos. I know that Jung-Hoo Lee is a popular player. If I see him hit another ground ball to second base or first base, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the same thing every time.
Yeah.
That is his game.
It's a good question.
So I don't know. I don't know if we have the stomach as an organization, but if we are in the memory-making business, like Buster said, this is not memory-making. This is torture, and not in a good way.
Yeah, I would say it is memory-making, just not the good kind of memories. They're nightmares. And again, as I was saying, I'm with you. It's 10%. If you want to put on the orange-colored glasses, knock yourself out, you might end up being right. But first impressions matter, and they're digging themselves a hell of a hole just with the fan base in believing, right? Like, how good would you have to be? How consistently excellent would this team have to be to get people back on the wagon, believing that this team can do something come postseason? Because certainly bad starts have not disqualified teams in Rob Manfred's baseball from making the postseason. But again, it just stretches the lines of credulity to believe that this team that we've watched now for 3-4 weeks is going to find it in themselves to play not just 500 baseball, but much better than 500 baseball at any point. At any point. And we can do nothing but sit back and watch. We don't have any say in the matter. We can whine and complain all we want. Heaven knows I love doing it. But it is on the organization and their stomach, as you so aptly put, Joe. And I'll say, Sam, Ramos would, if they decide that Ramos ain't it, that's not a problem because he's not on a big deal. Susak is already making the push for Bailey's playing time. Not an ideal circumstance, but ultimately one that's going to figure itself out. Because you cannot live with what Bailey's doing at the plate. And for one, I know that the metrics love him. I know that the Giants' internal metrics love him. I'm not disputing that he is, in fact, a good defensive catcher. But this rhetoric about greatness and, on par with no one excellence behind the plate. I've never quite understood. I do not see it. I do not see it. He is unquestionably very good as a defensive catcher. He is not nearly good enough as a defensive catcher to be this bad at the plate. I mean, I was thinking to myself the other night, these are the terrible thoughts I have when I'm left alone. There were so many people a couple of years ago, and some people on these airwaves, that just were insufferable when it came to the elimination of pitchers hitting in the National League. It's the death of tradition. I don't want to watch baseball if I can't watch pitchers who rake. And I haven't heard a peep from them basically since the second month of that new thing. Like, I haven't heard anybody earnestly complain about the National League having a DH since like a couple of games into that season. In the same way that no one's really complaining about ABS and no one's complaining about the banning of the shift. These were good moves. The pitch clock, like, you can complain about it if you're a pitcher, and maybe it is leading to more injuries, but like, these were good moves. These were good moves. But the Giants have effectively been throwing out a pitcher at the bottom of the lineup when it comes to OPS and all this stuff, night in, night out, because Patrick Bailey's still hitting for your team. You can have a DH, but you still have that guy that no opposing staff has to worry about in the least bit, because Patrick Bailey is just up there with overcooked spaghetti in his hands. And he's not getting anything done for you. And last year he had some clutch hits, and it covered up some of the problems. But as I said, I don't care how good of a defensive catcher he is. Susek seems like a pretty good defensive catcher. Seems like he's average, above average, but at least he can hit. And we're not in a league where you just can be a one-directional guy. This is a league where greatness, when it comes to baseball players, is defined by two-way ability. Think about all the five-tool superstars that exist in our league today. Like, okay, you can have yourself a Jake Berger, these power hitters who just sell out and don't play the field or whatever. The best players are the ones who give you a little something everywhere. I mean, think about the shortstop for the Reds, stealing bases, hitting home runs. The glove could use a little something, but he makes some spectacular plays as well. Not a lot of one-way stars in modern baseball. A lot of five-tool guys in baseball. And the Giants have a lot of one-way guys, and in some cases, no-way guys. So I think the Bailey thing is going to sort itself out. And I think it's going to be a big test of Vitello, because he doesn't have any allegiance to any of these guys. He's new. He's supposed to be brought in for his fresh perspective and his honest take. And at some point, he's going to have to start delivering those takes. At some point, he's going to have to say, like, you know what? I don't want to put this lineup out here anymore. I've felt it out enough. We're going to go this direction. And we're going to see if the powers that be in the front office want to go along for the ride with him. Because I do believe that he's like, I'm not going down with this ship. I'm not going to keep batting Patrick Bailey when he might as well just keep the bat on his shoulder like he's the kid you stuck in left field in Little League. Come on in. Come on in. Patrick Bailey's up. So I think that sorts itself out. The real question is Jung Hoo Lee. Because Ramos doesn't have some sort of a contract. You could send Ramos down. I think he's still got options. You already have your backup catcher, and Bailey is disqualifying himself on a nightly basis with the way he hits. The real question is Jung Hoo Lee. And it comes back to the roster construction. When you have a guy like Jung Hoo Lee, who's never going to hit 20 home runs in a year, I know that was the idea when they signed him. That should have been quickly dissolved after the first 3 months of him in the major leagues. Like, that guy does not have big league power. He needs to be a bat-to-ball guy. He needs to be someone who's out there stealing bases, making things happen. A Milwaukee Brewers type player. They got like 7 of them. And he's not any of those things right now. And he hasn't been any of those things, save for short little spurts throughout his career. If he puts the ball in the air, it doesn't go anywhere. If he puts the ball on the ground, it never seems to find a hole. And whenever he gets on base, he doesn't seem to go anywhere from there. 1, because the Giants lineup doesn't move him forward, and 2, because he doesn't steal any bases. Apparently, speed is not in fact hereditary, despite what the nickname might say. So what is it you would say you do here? He can't play center field, apparently. Had to move him to the corner. He's on a 6-year, $113 million deal. Now, I'm never going to cry poor with the San Francisco Giants because I know what the beer prices are in the stadium. I know what the ticket prices are in the stadium. They're doing fine. And if they need to just eat Jung-Hoo Lee's contract, they can, and they can write it off. It won't be an issue. But yeah, they're going to have some decisions to make there. And my concern is that Jung-Hoo will play just well enough that they will never actually pull the trigger, that they'll never actually say, you know what, we can upgrade. Because the other question is, who do you upgrade him with? I'll give you the Grant McCray thing, but that's a hell of a sell for someone on a $113 million deal. So to answer your question, Sam, in a very long-winded way, I think two of these things, they won't actually have to make a decision. The decisions will be made for them. If Ramos continues to struggle, it's not as if they're eating any money. If Bailey continues to struggle, it's not as if he's entitled to the catcher spot. We got the Giants broadcasters coming on these airwaves saying, I don't know if you can keep doing this. And that was a week ago. So it's not as if the company line is that we believe in Patrick Bailey. Jung-Hoo Lee is the real test. And he might just be good enough to maintain this level of torture that he has been putting Giants fans through. And I feel bad for him. He's a popular guy for a reason. He's a great dude. He's trying his best. It's not like you can accuse him of being lazy or anything. It just hasn't worked. It was a bold play. Maybe it was a little bit too much of a revenue play for the Korean market. Maybe it had all the wrong intentions, but it's not getting the desired outcome. We can all say that. I think Jung-Hoo would say that. So what is it you say you do here, Jung-Hoo Lee? We're going to have to find out here. But I ultimately do not think that the Giants have the stones to make that call in season this year. I think that we're going to have to ride this thing out for the $162, and then maybe, just maybe, there's some more options down on the farm that they feel like they want to give a go to. Maybe there's some more guys that they can grab on the backside that in free agency and things like that maybe make a push there. But it is a make or break year for Jung-Hoo Lee. It's kind of like we're heading into a fifth-year option in the NFL, except the problem is he's already got 6 years guaranteed. Right? That's the big thing. When you get a first-round pick in the NFL, you have to make a decision after their third year on if you should pick up their fifth-year option. That's, again, not how it's structured in baseball, but that's the make or break year for first-round picks in the NFL. This is Jung-Hoo Lee's make or break year. I don't think that they'll make a decision on him in the negative before the end of the year, but man, I do think the fan base will have every right to make a decision on him. Hell, anytime now. And we say this, of course, when he's coming off of a pretty good game. Let's quickly go to Aaron. You want to talk Giants? We want to talk to you. Aaron, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, Dieter. How you doing?
Well, after that game, we're getting through it. What can we do for you this evening, Aaron?
Well, I'm just baffled at how bad this team is, and you've already hit on a lot of points. I had a lot of questions coming into the year of how well was this roster constructed. It just feels like they're devoid of especially first base, and a couple of those outfield spots seem to still be kind of question marks on who you're going to have out there on a nightly basis.
Yeah.
And it really, the more we talk about it, the more it seems like we're still getting to that point where you're just going to see a lot of names come up for this Giants team, and it's looking like a repeat of the Farhound days of, you're going to eventually, you can't keep running the same lineup out there. So, sure. I don't know what they have in terms of the minor league system, who they are looking at bringing up, but you make great points about Jung-Hoo. I think that, people are, I don't know why, people love him so much. I think that he's an okay player at best, but he's not a guy that, for the contract of what he got, the value it's not there. Elliot Ramos, I say, give him maybe two more weeks to figure this thing out, and you either option him down or trade him, DFA him, do whatever you're going to do, because it's not going to work. And there's guys out there that you can replace him with that are going to give you what you need. So, and just Patrick Bailey, I mean, I think it was the 6th or 7th inning today that he goes to try to lay down a bunt with nobody on.
Yeah, that's going to work.
The leadoff guy in the inning, what are you what are you doing? So,
honestly, he had a better chance. He had a better chance of a hit that way than swinging it.
Which is so sad. It's so sad. I just want to throw this out to you, by the way, because I just was curious. So you said that he has a 327 OPS. I'll give you this. Did you know that Jamie Moyer in 2009, in his 46-year-old season, had a .359 OPS for the entire 2009 season. So 46-year-old Jamie Moyer, by metrics, is a better hitter than Patrick Bailey. That's kind of where we're at right now with that guy. So it goes to really put in perspective the magnitude of how that bottom of the lineup is just not getting it done. And really, it feels like you got pitchers out there hitting in the bottom of the lineup in the 7, 8, 9 hole. So that's
what was
really
that number on? What was that number on Moyer again?
359 OPS for the 2009 season.
Okay. So Harrison Bader is also hitting worse than him this year too.
Yes. And you
have
see
two
where
Jamie
I'm going
Moyers.
with that. It's like, exactly. And
goodness.
This team is just so lost. It's so lost. They don't have any leadership. Like, I don't know. I thought Matt Chapman was going to be the guy, or Willie Adames was going to be the guy to be, that leader that's going to galvanize them. But I don't see it from them. I think they're great clubhouse guys. I just don't think, like, we're missing that Hunter Pence, who was, he was the heart and soul of that team, the leader of that team. And even though he wasn't the star net per se, and obviously Posey was, the captain of that team, and when they were winning World Series, but you don't have guys where you sit there and you point and you say, yep, that's the guy who's night in, night out holding these guys accountable. They don't have that. They don't have that in Vitello, because Vitello is still getting his stuff together at the major league level, even though he doesn't have the experience. They don't have that in Buster Posey yet, because in his position, that's not really his role to get out there and say, hey, guys, you got to figure it out. He's doing this from the business aspect. So I understand that, it's a business, and that's what he's focused on. They don't have anybody in that clubhouse who I really think is going to inspire and lead this team to be playing better. So you can guarantee that they're going to be on the bus to 500 or under, and they'll probably be right there with the Rockies in terms of worst records in all of baseball at the end of the year.
That'd be something. Aaron, good call. That Jamie Moyer thing almost put me under. That's unbelievable. As for the leadership thing, it's one of those things that's very easily reverse engineered, right? Like, if your team's doing well, their leadership is great. When the team is struggling, they don't have enough leadership. It's the same thing with managers. Like, I don't know. I've spent a lot of time in big league clubhouses. I was never obviously a big league player or anything like that. I just don't. I don't know where to even begin with it, because it's such an ineffable thing. It's such a loose person to person thing that it just feels like it's a flimsy excuse. It's not to say that it's that your feelings towards it are wrong. It's not to say that that can't actually be the case. It's just that when I look at this lineup, I don't think, man, what they need is someone to lead them. No, I think they need like 5 hitters. And then at some point, it's all leadership from that point on. Just for the record, I said earlier, I think Elliot Ramos has options left. I was wrong. He has no options left. So that adds a little bit more seasoning to the steak there when it comes to Elliot Ramos, because you would have to DFA him if you were to let go. And this guy was an all-star for you at one point. But as I was saying earlier, the bat speed, and very thankful that Major League Baseball makes this stuff public, 3 miles per hour slower than it was. You've gone from somebody in the upper quarter of bat speed in baseball to somebody in the 35th percentile in baseball. And when you're not exactly a great bat to ball guy to begin with, that is extremely damning. They just need to start winning baseball games. That, or Tony Vitello needs to start coming out of his shell and putting his stamp on the team, whatever that's worth. I don't know if it can get much worse. So might as well say, hey, feeling out time is over. We're going to play it my way. But I don't even know if he has the guys on this roster to really play it his way. Drew Gilbert is still in the minor leagues. Maybe they need some Drew Gilbert. Maybe that's the leadership they need. Maybe they just need the weird guy to come up and loosen everybody. I don't know. I do not know. And me venturing a guess as to what they need when it comes to leadership and personalities is just, it's a fool's errand. What they need are guys to start hitting the damn baseball and playing up to what they've done previously in their careers. And that includes Patrick Bailey, who's certainly never been this bad. It includes Harrison Bader, who has certainly never been this bad. They might not be good hitters, but they've never been this bad. But it definitely means Rafi Devers. It definitely means Elliot Ramos. And for whatever Jung-Hoo Lee can give you, he's always been the X factor on this team. And right now, the X factor doesn't look very enticing. So a lot of things that the Giants need to improve on. And at a certain point, we're just all watching the water circle the drain and wondering when the tub's going to empty out. And it's on the Giants to put a plug in it. It's on the Giants to start giving us reasons to feel like, hey, they got this thing going in the right direction, because there just really has not been a time this season, even when they've played decent enough ball and they've won series, where you go, okay, yeah, okay, I'm starting to feel it. There's a little bit of momentum. Train's on the tracks. Everything feels very scattershot. Everything feels very day by day. And when you add up all of these days that they've had, particularly, again, when you're talking about 9 of your 11 losses being 2 runs or fewer, 6 of your 11 being 1 run or fewer, it's starting to leave a bad taste in your mouth. We are in the memory making business. These are not good memories to be making, especially when early impressions seem to count for double. We're going to talk some Warriors. We're going to talk some 49ers. We might even get into the Sharks a little bit later. Curtain Box hanging out with you until 9 p.m. on The Sports Leader.
This is Sports Phone KNBR. Dial the digits or send us a text at 415-808-KNBR. We're streaming on YouTube all damn day at KNBR 1045.
Hey, we're back with you on the all-powerful and ever-loving sports leader Dieter Kurtenbach until 9 p.m. And we've talked a lot of Giants already. Let's pivot forward. Let's look forward to another big game that's coming up tomorrow. I put big game in air quotation marks here. Warriors and Clippers in the 9-10 game of the play-in tournament. I mean, this is what you dream about when you're a kid, folks. You're in the driveway shooting some hoops. Long summer night, and you're thinking to yourself, if only I could make it to the 8-9 game of the play-in tournament. Seconds left to play. Play-in tournament game on the line. Again, this is what we dream about, folks. And am I wrong for just wanting this to all be over? I'm not talking about anything beyond the Golden State Warriors. Just release us from this season, Warriors. Let us go. Just end it. Get it over with. Because I can't do this anymore. I can't watch this team anymore. I have heard the romantic notions of you never take Steph Curry for granted. And that's true. That's true. You shouldn't take a Steph Curry game for granted. But it's not my fault that the Warriors took Steph Curry for granted. I'm not supposed to make up for the karmic imbalance of the Warriors not putting a good enough team around Steph Curry to win a championship. The NBA undercutting Golden State. And listen, I'm not advocating responsibility for Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy and even to a degree Steve Kerr. At the same time, the deck was stacked against them with this new collective bargaining agreement. There's a middle ground to be found. The Warriors haven't found it. Yes, we should value every second we can see Steph Curry play basketball, but he's coming back next year. We're going to get another, maybe 40, 50 games of Steph Curry next year, and maybe they'll mean something. But you cannot convince me that whatever's happening in this play-in tournament game tomorrow means anything. And I know it doesn't mean anything because the games don't count for anything. Sure, you can advance, and hell, if you win 2 of them, you can make the playoffs. But they don't even put these games in the official record book. They don't count the stats for these games. They're not regular season games. They're not playoff games. They exist in this strange basketball purgatory that now we have to pretend is a big deal. The Warriors are a sub-500 team who is down their second best player, who's down one of their most promising young players who was coming along in Moses Moody. They have a minutes restriction on Steph Curry. They have a minutes restriction on Kristaps Porzingis for whatever it's worth, not that he was going to bump up against it. They have a minutes restriction for Al Horford. You're getting Draymond Green back for the game, but you're counting on Brandon Pajemski and DeAnthony Melton to go and win you a quasi-playoff game because Steph can only give you so much, and they won't let him go more than 40 minutes. As Steph said today in L.A., he expects it to be his regular rotation with maybe a little something extra for late in the contest. Is that enough? Maybe. Maybe. But we're in the exact same spot we were with this team the second that Jimmy went down. And the same problem this team had before they got Jimmy, which is the Steph minutes are good enough to play with anybody. Play with, maybe not beat, but play with anybody. And you're going to beat a hell of a lot of those teams with just the Steph minutes. The second Steph is off the floor, you don't stand a chance. I mean, they're a lottery team as it stands, but they're one of the worst teams in basketball without Steph Curry on the floor. Don't believe me? We got to watch it for 27 games. So the idea that, you should savor every second you see of Steph Curry. Okay, factually true, spiritually probably in the right place, but in practice, it's torture. In practice, it feels like he's obligated to have to drag this garbage team further than it has any right to go. And frankly, it's opposed to the Warriors' best interest to win this game. It is. It is. Right now, the Warriors have a roughly, I think it's 9.4% chance If only we lived in an age of information and incredible technology where I could accidentally run into the stats here, the numbers here. The Warriors have a 9.4% chance at a top 4 pick as it stands today. They have a 2% chance at the number 1 overall pick in what is unquestionably a loaded draft. If nothing goes their way in the NBA draft lottery, they'll pick 11th, and that's going to get a really damn good player in a draft that looks to be 12, 13 deep. It's going to be a damn good player. Yaxel Jannenberg from Michigan, Nate Ament from Tennessee. Those are players that you can use in the here and now. Those are players that can project into something really nice down the line. That's if the Warriors lose, they get 9.4% chance at a top 4 pick, 2% chance at the number 1. If they win on Wednesday, okay, things don't change. The problem comes if they win twice. And now they've made the playoffs, and whoops, we're out of the lottery. Whoops, we're picking 15th. In a 12 or 13 player draft. Not ideal. Not ideal. What's in the Golden State Warriors' best interest? We complain about tanking all the time. You won't hear me complaining about it because it is the practical, smart thing to do for most NBA teams, and the NBA only has itself to blame for creating a system that actually, as they've tried to dissuade teams from tanking, has further incentivized tanking because the flattened odds actually force you to be worse to get better. Oh, didn't see that one coming, did you? It's called unintended consequences, and the NBA is masterful at finding them. Regardless, the Warriors, if they were to win both of these play-in tournament games, right? Steph Curry just goes thermonuclear for back-to-back games. We all have a fun little celebration, and then they get to play the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round. And let me just ask you, which is a better chance of happening? The Warriors getting a top 4 pick in the draft should they lose one of these next 2 games? Or just get it out of the way come Wednesday? Or the Warriors having a chance of beating the Thunder in the first round? I'll go with the top 4 pick. 9.4% chance of a top 4 pick. That gives you a legitimate shot at a Cameron Boozer, maybe a DeBansa, maybe a Peterson. You know, who knows? Top 4. Top 4. It could be 2, could be 3, it could be 4. But man, the Warriors win these 2. Did they have a 9.4% chance of beating the Thunder in a 7-game series? I'm not sure. I don't think so. So it's in Golden State's best interest to not win. And again, if you're not going to win, let's just get this thing over with. Let's just call it what it was. It was a lost season. The second Jimmy went down, they tried. I'll give them points for effort in trying to make something out of this with Porzingis, the best player that you could get for Jonathan Kuminga. But that's not working. I'm open to the idea of it, reprising the role next year. But you traded for a man with a mysterious long COVID injury. He's been on a minutes restriction since he showed up. That's if he can play. And maybe a summer with Rick Celebrini and all that, maybe they can figure it out. But he's a free agent. Cost has to be right. There's a lot of weird stuff happening on that front. We can get into all that down the line. Just, this is not a good enough team to engage in the possibility of anything good happening. And if we're going to hold up, oh, well, they got out of the play-in tournament as some sort of an accomplishment, how far the mighty have fallen. Well, at least when they got out of the play-in tournament last year, right? And they've been in it for 3 straight years now. 3 years ago, it was they went to Sacramento and got smoked. Game was over by the end of the first half. Absolute ass-kicking. Man, did they like that beam hard, though. That was a highlight moment for the Sacramento Kings, baby. That was 3 years ago. 2 years ago, or last year, is probably a better way to put it. Adjust your mental timelines accordingly. A year ago, they go into the play-in tournament, they get out, and then they go and they play Houston. They win that series. And then they got the Minnesota Timberwolves and had Steph not gotten injured, had Jimmy not been injured. Who knows in that matchup? Now, they probably would have lost to the Thunder, but that would have been in the Western Conference Finals. You can't tell me that doesn't mean something. You can't tell me that wouldn't have been a hell of an accomplishment to be in the NBA's Final Four. And of course, we're speaking hypothetically because that's not what happened. They lost in 5 games to Minnesota. But that would have been a team that had something to say for itself at the end of the year. And it would have lined up with how we saw the Warriors play at the end of last year when Jimmy Butler arrived. They were one of the better teams in basketball down the stretch. And no, they couldn't get out of the play-in tournament, which was going to always be hard to do. But when they did actually play their way out of the play-in tournament, they went and won a series against a pretty good Houston team. A Houston team that might be better than the one they have this year, and this year's Houston team has Kevin Durant. So I'm looking at this year, and I'm saying to myself, which is it more like? Is it more like 2 years ago, 3 seasons ago, when they played Sacramento and got run off the court in the first half? That team? Or is it more like the Jimmy Butler post-trade deadline, hey, Warriors are making a move here, Warriors are on the up now, squad that we saw last year and whose season was derailed by injuries after they had won the play-in tournament and won a series in 7 games against their arch rivals, Houston Rockets? Which of those two does this year sound like? If you answered last year, you are wrong. They're not even remotely close to the team they were last year because, again, the same issues that existed before Jimmy have now shown up post-Jimmy, and we'll see if when Jimmy comes back, whenever that might be next year, if those issues persist. But that's an issue for next year. In the here and now, the Warriors, and I'm not saying that they should tank. I'm not saying that they should deliberately lose. I'm not saying, but man, they could do us all a favor by doing what they normally do and losing on Wednesday. And if they can't do it Wednesday, then at that point we might have a different conversation, and maybe we should be getting it done come Friday in the play-in tournament, whether they're playing the Suns or the Blazers. It's just not a fun spot to be in. And again, it's not one of these situations where you point to roster construction, you point to, let's pull that back a little bit, Dieter. You can point to roster construction and say, we saw this one coming, because you built a team around a bunch of guys in their mid to late 30s, one of which is injured for the year. The other 2, well, 3. Draymond's not on any restrictions, but he's been on and off, and he is ineffectual at times. Steph missed all that time, has a runner's knee that's going to need an offseason to heal. Right? So they're load managing him while playing him, hence the minutes restriction, hence Steve not being able to push him more than 40 minutes in a play-in tournament game when you really need 48 of them, if not more. And then Porzingis, who, Horford on a minutes restriction as well, but again, with the way the Warriors rotations work, I don't think that's going to be much of an issue, never would have been. He's a spurt player to begin with. Even though I like Al Horford a lot, he's not a heavy minutes guy at this stage in his career. He's turning 40 soon. And then Porzingis with the minutes restriction. The roster construction is flawed, but this team's season never had a shot because they were never healthy. It never came together. The season started with the Jonathan Kuminga fiasco, and I'll vividly remember Media Day this year. It's the first day of training camp where they bring every player in. You go, hey, how was your offseason, this and that? And the Warriors didn't know, well, at least we in the media, so it speaks to us, didn't know who was going to show up to Media Day because the Warriors didn't have an offseason. They had agreements in place to sign players, and those agreements ended up holding in the most part. But they didn't have an offseason because Jonathan Kuminga's restricted free agency wasn't settled. And so Kuminga shows up to the first day of training camp being like, yeah, I'm here. I believe that's a direct quote. If it's a paraphrase, it's not by much. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. What about it? Well, Jonathan, sure seems like you want to be anywhere but here. No, I'm here. I'll be a pro. Okay. I mean, and to Jonathan Kuminga's credit, I mean, he was. His agent wasn't, but he was. And it wasn't working. And there'd be spurts where it looked like it was working. Those first 4 or 5 games of the season, my goodness, total buy-in. Then what happened? By the way, same thing happened with the Hawks. It's funny. It's almost like it's a trend. Regardless, they didn't even have an offseason. Everything is arrested development. They get into training camp. It's weird. It's just straight up weird. everything is Jonathan Kuminga. He just put a pall over everything. And then they get going. It looks great for a couple days, and it was just stop and start and stop and start and stop and start. And then when they finally all come together and they say, okay, we gotta kind of get going here. Yeah, we're old, we were kind of easing into it a little bit. Let's get going here. Whoop, there goes Jimmy's knee. And now you are just in scramble mode. Now you're looking at anything and saying, what's bolted down? Because everything else we might have to take to the pawn shop. And that creates a strange tension in a room, understandably so. The JK situation elevates to even more bizarre levels than it already was, which I didn't think possible. And you end up with Porzingis in, but Steph is out because of his runner's knee. And nothing came together. And the last thing that this team needs is for karmic balance to be struck and everything to come together for the Golden State Warriors right now. They put in a lot of hard work, a lot of god-awful basketball to get themselves a pretty nice draft pick in a draft where that could mean something. And the worst thing that could happen, I'm telling you right now, because again, it's just a strict numbers game. The worst thing that can happen is them finding it all right now. I don't think that's going to happen, but with this team, you can't bet on them in any way, shape, or form, good or bad. Again, 9.4% chance of a top 4 pick if they were to simply not win again. Just go down to L.A., a team that beat you on Sunday. Go down to L.A., Kawhi Leonard does his thing. Darius Garland does his thing. Bogdanovich comes off the bench and drops 4 3-pointers. You know how it goes. Have it end. Play the lottery ping pong ball odds. We'll see if Adam Silver, in his bid to maybe dissuade teams from tanking, maybe puts his hand on the lever a little bit. It's been suggested that it's been done before. Look at Cooper Flagg last year in Dallas. Was that just luck? Was that luck? I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by nature, but at a certain point, is it much of a theory? I mean, at a certain point, is it not just a conspiracy? We could talk about that some other time. Maybe this isn't the venue for such high-minded conversation. Regardless, 9.4% chance of a top 4 pick. Do they have a better than 9.4% chance of beating the Thunder? I really earnestly don't think so. And I'm not even as high on the Thunder as many. Though I should note, I think over the last 21 games that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has played, the Thunder are 20-1. Remember the talk early in the season on if they could take down the 73-win record for the Warriors? I mean, it was misguided from the jump because that would require, I can't even, it's so funny. That would require NBA stars to play in games. But regardless of that, once you get past that, little hiccup of you need your players to play in order to win the games at the highest level and to take down what should be a record that stands in perpetuity in the NBA, probably because they should shorten the season. So how the hell are you going to get 73 when you're only going to play 70 games? But it wasn't completely unfounded as a notion. Like, the Thunder came into this season and they looked, well, the reigning champions. They were incredibly young when they won the championship. They now have that knowledge in there, and frankly, their roster was better. So some of the even younger guys on the team should have continued to develop. SGA had other gears to get to. Chet Holmgren unquestionably has other gears to get to. The Jalen Williams thing with the injury, that became a little wonky, and that ultimately was their undoing when it came to going for any sort of a record. And that got over with pretty quickly. I think that was done by early December. But again, it wasn't unfounded. And again, 20-1 over the last 21 that SGA has played. And he's going to be playing. Okay. Round 1 of the NBA playoffs. I mean, he might not be going hard, but he's going to be playing. Warriors don't stand a chance against that team. So again, let's just get this thing over with. Am I wrong for rooting against watching more of this Warriors edition? Am I wrong for Wednesday night opening up Amazon Prime? And by the way, That's the only way you can get it on TV, Amazon Prime. Am I wrong for opening up Amazon Prime on a Wednesday night? A night that I've turned down the beautiful opportunity, which is so rarely afforded, to join the fine folks at this very station to bloviate about whatever it is I want to bloviate about and talk to the fine KNBR listeners because I needed my attention to be undivided towards this play-in tournament game. A decision that was made legitimately months ago. I mean, sometimes the schedule can be a little haphazard, a little, hey, 2 weeks from now or 10 days from now, 7 days from now, like tomorrow, can you pop in and fill in on Sports Phone? And, you got to make it work. You got the kids, you got the wife, you got other responsibilities, you got a bunch of stuff going on. The Sharks are playing that night. I got to be down at the tank, all this stuff. This was 2 months ago. The great Mike Holler texts me up and goes, hey, Sports Phone pretty much the entire week of April 13th available. And I'm looking at it and I go, play-in tournament game. It's going to be Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Friday night. Okay, give me Tuesday and Thursday because the Warriors are certainly going to be playing in that 9-10 game. And then maybe they'll play Friday. We'll see about that. But 9-10 game. 2 months ago, I was able to schedule the 9-10 game. 2 months ago. So, why do I want to see more of this? I don't. And you can do whatever it is you want. I'm not here to kink shame anybody here on the airwaves. But if you're interested in seeing more of the 2025-2026 Warriors, God help you. God help you. I hope for your sake and certainly mine that we don't. Kurtenbach with you until 9 on The Sports Leader.
The nighttime is the right time for Sports Phone KNBR. Let's f***ing go on the sports leader. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Hey, we're back with you, the sports leader, Dieter Kurtenbach, hanging out until 9 p.m. The Sharks season ended yesterday when the LA Kings beat the Kraken. It looked like it was going to overtime because every Kings game apparently goes to overtime. The Kings prevailed, clinched a playoff spot, and even though the Sharks were able to win in Nashville last night, the season's over. There are 2 games left to play. All that's left to play for, frankly, is further development, whatever you can get out of these 2 games. Luca Caglione, we'll see if the kid from DU, the Hobie Baker finalist, wants to sign and get in for a game or 2. But more than that, it's Macklin Celebrini's chance to break the Sharks single-season points record of Joe Thornton, a record that looked like it wasn't going to be broken for a very, very long time. And if it was going to be broken, it would have been by Macklin Celebrini, 5-6 years from now. He's 19 years old. He might overtake Joe Thornton on a team that was as good as any in hockey. Might overtake Joe Thornton, a Hall of Famer, for the single-season Sharks points record. Not in some crazy, steroid era baseball scoring explosion era, just in a normal era. Just normal stuff happening left, right, and center. This kid at 19 could set the Sharks single-season points record, and that's something to play for. That's something that I want to see. Maybe some rest would be good for the kid, but frankly, I say go for it. It's unbelievable stuff from the already great, frankly should be MVP Hart Trophy winner, Macklin Celebrini. And we could talk about that all night, how great Macklin is. And we would not be off base in any way, shape, or form. We are so lucky to have what I'm going to just straight up call up the heir apparent to Steph Curry here in the Bay. Right? If the 49ers operate on their own plane of existence, then everybody else is fighting for second place. And Steph Curry, unquestionably, has held second place if, again, the Niners operate on a singular high plane of existence in our mental landscapes. Steph Curry has held that spot and, frankly, overtook the Niners for a while, for more than a decade now. Almost a decade and a half. And he still has some time, and he's still going to, keep our hearts and minds aflutter. But when he's gone, the question is who takes over? Who's going into that number 2 spot? Maybe it's Bryce Eldridge. Fingers crossed. He definitely could. Giants have a leg up on everything. If they want it, they can have it. But unless it's Bryce Eldridge, it ain't anybody on this team. And forgive me, I don't think the WNBA is going to get there. I don't think MLS is going to get there. Comes down to Warriors, and again, with a level of detriment, because hockey, they say it's for everybody, but not everyone's into hockey, whereas basketball is a much more mainstream game. Comes down to the Sharks, and it comes down to the Warriors. And frankly, I think Macklin Celebrini this year has already taken that lead off of the Dubs. I think this is Macklin's Bay for a long, long time. And we're lucky. And it can be nothing more than luck. I know the Sharks legitimately, deliberately tried to suck for a long time. And they thought they could get Connor Bedard, and they are just so damn lucky that they didn't get Connor Bedard and that they got the number 1 pick when they got it, and it turned out to be Celebrini, and he is so much better than anyone thought he was going to be, and people had extremely high opinions of Macklin Celebrini. But he was not the golden child like a Connor Bedard now with the Blackhawks was. He wasn't the guy that everyone was talking about for 4 or 5 years prior to him entering the draft. I thought he was going to be like a supercharged version of Jonathan Taves. Turns out he's like Mario Lemieux. Bit of a difference there. Both of them won cups, though. And that's the exciting part. So we're very lucky to have Macklin in the Bay because, frankly, we needed a true second star. If the Niners are always going to carry the day, we needed a true second star. The Giants have not provided it. The Warriors have it now and will not have it for much longer if we're viewing it on a wider scope. And Macklin, I think, is he might not be the most successful. He's 19. He's 19. His frontal lobe is still developing, so you can't even get on him for maybe being a little bit boring off the ice. Plus, I'll never be able to relate to Gen Z. I'm too old. So there's that. We're so lucky to have him. That being said, Sharks should have made the playoffs this year. I know that was not the expectation coming in. The expectation, as clearly stated by me, was make it interesting. Give us a reason to believe that next year you're going to make the playoffs. They did that in spades. They were so good at it that, frankly, going into the Olympic break, I go, you guys got to kind of make the playoffs this year. Now's the year to do it. You can't waste an MVP season, even if you're expecting them for another decade plus. You can't waste it. He's too good. Kind of in the same way with Steph. Like, you have to do whatever you can to maximize the here and now because it's so special. And the Sharks did not make the playoffs. I think they went 11-18 down the stretch. And again, with 2 games to go, you would have taken it at the beginning of the season without question. What an incredible, wonderful season if we held on to our priors. But then once you're in it and you get a little taste of it, once you smell it, you go, I want that. You want that. And expectations change. And you crave it a little bit more. And it's frustrating when you don't get it. Is it fair? No. But it's the reality of the situation. So the question is, why did the Sharks not make the playoffs? Because at that point, when you are right there, you're holding a wild card spot. At times, you are leading the Pacific Division. The question is, why didn't you make it? And it's not a big macro thing like, oh, they weren't ready. Oh, they don't have enough players yet. Why didn't you make it when you had a hand on it? What went wrong? And I think it's because they failed the 3 key rules of playoff hockey. And once you get into the home stretch of the NHL season, where now everyone's fighting for something. Once you get into that home stretch, the question is, can you play playoff hockey? And the Sharks, frankly, couldn't. So let me lay this on you as someone who loves playoff hockey maybe more than anything else in sport. I love the Six Nations in rugby. I love the Tour de France. Did you guys see Paris-Roubaix this past weekend? Unbelievable one-day race. Love the classics, but really I'm a Tour de France man. 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning in the summer, hop on the bike, put the iPad up in front, get it on the trainer, just go. We just ride, baby. World Cup. I was a lot more into the World Cup before I learned much about FIFA. Not feeling as World Cuppy. Olympic hockey, second to none. Love it. I got my tickets for Olympic handball in LA 28. So excited for that. We're trying to get more tickets, but I think we're going to volleyball and handball at the Olympics in 28, me and my family. Super amped for that. That's super cool stuff. Playoff baseball, I mean, how good is that? NBA playoffs when you got teams that are actually watchable and not like the Thunder. Great stuff. I'm not the biggest March Madness guy, unless my Mizzou Tigers are in it. That one has waned in the years, to be fair. Obviously, college football, NFL, like we all have our stuff. But if you soup to nuts, man, you put it up like, Dieter, what do you enjoy watching the most? Playoff hockey just has me feeling some type of way. It really does. I don't need to even have a team in the fight, as we haven't in the Bay for 7 years. So I love playoff hockey. I love it so much. I watch damn near every game all spring long, every spring for the last 25 years. This is my thing. And we don't have a lot of opportunity to talk about it for the last 7 years here on The Leader. And I'm hoping that changes next year. But there are 3 rules. I really do believe this. There are 3 rules to playoff hockey, and the Sharks failed every one of them. Rule number 1 is there are no style points in playoff hockey. You just have to put the damn puck on the net and then get dirty. Get to scrapping. Board battles are everything. Good puck entries are everything. If you need to just dump it in on every single shift, go to town. You can call it fundamentals, but it's really about getting dirty. It's really about just doing the things that the other team doesn't want to do. But in order to score these dirty goals that so often decide games, if not fundamental to winning playoff hockey games. You got to put the damn puck on the net. You have to actually shoot it. And this team's inability to just shoot shots when they had clear shooting lanes was excruciating. Excruciating. Because I do believe that they have a forward group that's capable of doing the dirty work up front, boxing out for position, just chipping at pucks in the paint. I think that they had it, winning board battles in the corner. I think that they had the ability to do that. They can certainly cycle the puck. They just got too cute by half. And they weren't able to dig down deep and just say style points don't matter. And frankly, it's not that surprising that that was the case because it's a young team. Even though they have some veterans on it, it was a young team. And young teams are often too cute by half. They didn't get dirty. They weren't blocking as many shots as their opposition. They weren't putting pucks on net. They weren't putting pucks just into the slot, hoping that it got tipped somehow. They were trying to always make the extra pass so that everyone had to shift and the goalie would have to vacate one side and then a quick pass back so that he could get it into the net. It's just not how you score. It's not how you win in the Stanley Cup playoffs and if you're trying to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. The second rule, and this one was probably the most damning. Defensemen win Stanley Cups, man. The blue line is your lifeline. And the Sharks just did not have defensemen that they could trust at all. I would say that they had one viable defenseman down the stretch, and that was Vinny Descharnais, who is just a stay-at-home PK monster. Really good at it. A little passive. Everybody kind of just goes, oh, Vinny will figure it out. But that was it. Sam Dickinson, rookie, bless his heart, just got put in the blender for the last 2 weeks. And he was coming along so well, and then you get into playoff hockey, and suddenly you realize that's a little bit of a different ball game. Physicality ratchets up, intensity ratchets up, and Sam Dickinson, under 20 years old, just wasn't ready for it. That's not his fault. It's just how it goes. It's how it goes. It takes defensemen many, many years to figure out how to play at the NHL level. I mean, even if you're Schaefer with the Islanders, he's great going forward, scoring 20-something goals, but that doesn't mean that he's really solid going backwards. So, John Klingberg, on and off the ice, couldn't play him a lot of times. Nick Leddy was skating like he was knee-deep in wet concrete. Who could have seen that coming? They just bring Nick Leddy off of the schneid after, 2 months, plays one AHL game after they send him down in January, and they're like, Nick Leddy, save our season. There's a reason you sent him down. Shadir Mukhamadullin, I like Shadir Mukhamadullin. I can see why his head coach doesn't, because he wants to be a forward. There are some good defensive plays. He also just stops skating a lot. And Mario Ferraro, I think, does a lot of the right things. He just isn't big or strong or, frankly, good enough to be anything more than a third pairing kind of dirty work guy. It just isn't. They need, and then don't even start me on Dmitry Orlov, who was so bad that he turned into a meme. I wish I was joking, but in the hockey universe of podcasts and Twitters and YouTubes, he turned into a damn meme. He was so unplayable. That was their blue line. It was a stay-at-home, monstrous defenseman, and everybody else was a get the hell out of the way, get off the ice guy. It looks so bad that they bring in Luca Caglione, who is kind of of the folks that really follow the Sharks, kind of a hot topic, because he's a very offensive-minded defenseman, but he's little. But he can really move the puck. Very, very sharp in the offensive zone. They finally called him up now that the season was over, and he looked pretty damn good against the Preds. And the Sharks' offense looked, frankly, a lot better when he was on the ice. So we have to live with that. We'll see what happens with him, because I do think that the Sharks are giving him a test ride now, but there's no guarantee he's on the NHL roster next year. He's just really small. And so you have to be really special offensively to be that small at the NHL level. They, frankly, need to redo the entire blue line. The only two guys who are under contract for next year are Orlov and Dickinson. Okay? Dickinson should be up. He's going to be really, really good. It's just going to take a while, because that's what happens with defensemen. Orlov, I don't think you can trade him at this point because he became so much of a meme. But if you can get off of him, I'd get off of him. He has 1 year left on his deal at like $6 million. I think it's a half no trade clause this summer. If you can move him, move him. Otherwise, you got to ride with him, but you have to have serious upgrades. He was your power play quarterback down the stretch. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. The issue that I see as we look forward is free agency is going to have a lot of money, but not a lot of players. And there is no obvious fix on the free agent market. Like, if you just wait, this guy's going to come. There's nobody like that that's about to hit the market. So that can be your power play quarterback and a top unit defenseman. So I don't know what the Sharks do. This Mike Greer's job is very, very difficult here, but they have to do a fundamental restructuring of the blue line if they want to compete for the playoffs last year, because they got away with it for 4 months, and then you get into the final 2 months, and it's nut crunching time, and the D-line got exposed again and again and again, which brings us to Rule 3. You got to know your matchups, and you can't panic as a head coach. And I think Ryan Warsofsky did a really good job for the first 4 months of this year. In the last 2 months of the year, he was on tilt. He was on tilt. You want to talk about, the rule is to not panic. All he did was panic. Constant button pressing. Constant triple shifting of Celebrini. Leaving Will Smith off the ice for periods at a time. Top line, total hodgepodge. Defensive unit, total hodgepodge. They had Ty Dellandrea come in off the bench after he sat for a long time. He goes in, and this was against the Predators last week. He goes in, he gets absolutely undone. I'm sorry, Ducks, against the Ducks last week. Gets absolutely undone by Leo Carlson, who was just a hell of a player for the Ducks. Highlight reel goal, probably Carlson's goal of the year. Dellandrea coming back, it was a 2-on-2, and he just gets put on his ass. And he was given bad shifts as a third, fourth line guy. So what does Warsofsky do? He promotes him up, makes him a second line winger. Oh, now he's a first line. Now he's playing with Macklin. It was bizarre. And that has been the case for so many of Warsofsky's decisions. It's easy to say in hindsight, but so many of the decisions, when he makes them in the time, you go, what the hell's going on here? It wasn't even hindsight. It was with foresight that you could see that these decisions were weird. So when you don't have a D that you can trust, that's one thing, okay? When you don't have a defense you can trust, you are behind the 8 ball, particularly come, playoff time or making the playoff time. But so much of heavy-duty hockey, serious hockey, is knowing your matchups. This is why when we come to the actual playoffs, you'll hear a lot about where the bench is located. You'll hear a lot about the home team having last shift rights. It's because these things matter when you're going up against the best of the best. And when Warsofsky is constantly just playing Yahtzee with his lines, it's incredibly difficult to create positive matchups. It's difficult to make good shifts to counterbalance the strengths of other teams. It was bizarre, totally bizarre, all the way down the stretch. Some of the roster, calling guys up for the day, bringing in Klingberg, dropping Klingberg, the Leddy situation. I don't know where Sherzhoff was for weeks on end. Bizarre stuff. And it lends itself to a very big question here for the Sharks. And we already know the answer, but this is going to hang over him until he proves otherwise, and we're not going to find out until this time next year. Is Warsofsky the coach that can get the Sharks to a level of competence, or is he the guy who can take the team over the top? Is he the guy who can make this team contend? Because of all the terrible performances down the stretch for the Sharks, Ryan Warsofsky's might have been the worst. The burden of proof is on him, but man, it was discouraging. And I think I asked it the last time we were on. Is he the Mark Jackson of this team? Is he the guy who can get them to a spot where they're respectable, but will never be able to get them over the hump because he's not good enough? I guess we're going to find out. But there are 3 rules of playoff hockey. The Sharks failed rather miserably on all 3 of them. Knowing your matchups and not panicking as a coach, 0 for 1. Needing your blue line to lead the way, 0 for 2. And then just getting dirty and understanding that style points don't matter in the playoffs. Big there. And that's why they're 0 for 7 in making the playoffs. 0 for 3 on the things that matter come playoff time, and 0 for 7 in making the playoffs because of it. And The good news is that now we have expectations. The good news is that it cannot be 0 for 8. That's good news. But in the meantime, Sharks have a lot of work to do to make sure that that's the case. Kurtenbach with you until 9 p.m. on The Sports Leader.
Sports Phone KNBR keeps rolling live from the KNBR Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpot Studios. Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpots are here. Where are you? Just drop in. Please play responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
Back with you on The Sports Leader. Jeter Kurtenbach hanging out until 9 p.m. And I want to shift our focus now to the NFL draft. Can we get the sounder, the draft sounder? Thank you, Kyle. Thank you. My man Jake Hutchinson, who is a very frequent guest, and in fact sometimes feels like the only guest of my short times hosting Sports Phone KNBR, he and I got a little show called Dieter and Hutch, and we got a strong group of sickos. Very appreciative of the entire collection. And anyone who's listening who's a sicko, shout out 415-808-5627. Hit me up on the text line. Let me know that you're listening, and we'll connect. We put out a draft guide every year because, frankly, we got sick of the media apparatus around the draft, which, and this is saying something, given that I am a world-class loudmouth, and someone who could just listen to myself talk in perpetuity. The vapid air around the NFL draft is enough to asphyxiate you. There's just not enough oxygen. It is crap in the air. It's like being in Delhi in the middle of the summer. The particles off the charts. The AQI deep in the purple. We couldn't do it anymore. And we felt consistently misled. We felt like analysis was scattershot, to say the least. And so we said, as I think all people should, we'll do it ourselves. Because clearly, there's not a high barrier to entry for this little ball game that is NFL draft analysis. And I had been doing it for Fox Sports and other outlets for a long time. I love the draft. I love scouting football players. It's something that I've done and I think have a very high clip. You can ask a tremendous amount of college coaches from my time back in South Florida where I was scouting for college teams. And then I think that I've done a very good job in identifying talent going into the NFL level. And I'm very fortunate to have good guidance on that front. I'm very fortunate to have a great partner in Jake Hutchinson, who is very astute at this stuff. This is a long-winded way, shocking, of saying you should go to sickos.football. Sickos.football is where Jake and I posted this year's draft guide. Last year, and even the year before that to a degree, we had like a PDF, right? Here's a document. No one wants that. It's 2026. So now we have an interactive website with all of our favorite players, all of our scouting reports, all of our draft analysis. It's a living, breathing document. There are 236 prospects that are graded, sorted, analyzed, up on the board right now. We're going to add a couple more certainly before now and the end of the draft. And then once it all goes down, we'll have, and this is legitimately the best part, a very deep dive, like a shockingly deep dive, because we have most of this already written. We just don't put it out. It'd be too much to comprehend at one time. But we do a super deep dive into the players that the 49ers take and how they fit what it is the 49ers want to do, what it is that those draft picks tell us about what the 49ers want to do, and vice versa. So I have 236 graded players. Maybe Jake has two more. I only have 236 graded players. And I won't get too deep into the weeds. I'm not going to be going full Larry Krueger here and busting out prospect 222 and why he could be a great fit for the Niners, who, by the way, don't pick after 139. It's 27, 58, 127, 133, 138, 139. Will that remain the same? Probably not. Do I expect the 49ers to be drafting in round 6 or 7? Not really, because it's not a good enough draft to try to jump back in there. So, let's stick with the names that you might know, even if you're not a draft head. These are names that have been bandied about on the internet, perhaps even on this station. Maybe Larry's talked about them, though, again, he likes to go deep sea fishing, if you will, constantly looking for that 100-pound marlin when, frankly, I just want a good 20-pound trout. Yeah, I want to be a doubles hitter in the draft. It'd be cool to land the 100-foot marlin. How much seasickness will I have to endure? How many waves will have to crash into my boat? How many hours will I have to wait? How many failures? How many 20-pound trouts will I have missed out on in the goal of getting one 100-pound marlin, which you got to throw back anyway? I'm not much of a fisherman. I lived in South Florida for a time. That's the depth of the analogy. So here are some names that you probably know, and if you don't, they're names that maybe you should know. These are day 1, day 2 picks, and I'll keep it simple. I'm not just going to run through my top 100. I'm not going to give you a scouting report on all of these guys. Suffice it to say, there are some very good players in this draft, but frankly, there's not enough really good players in this draft. The positions that seem to be deepest are the positions that people care the least about. My God, do we have some good safeties, linebackers, and offensive guards. But I want to give you 3 underrated prospects and 3 overrated prospects per my analysis. Okay, these are guys that I like way more than the consensus, and we're going to use mock draft database as sort of the baseline for this consensus, though I do not believe there's wisdom in the crowds when it comes to the NFL draft. And 3 overrated guys that I just don't get. And actually, I'll give you 4 because there's one guy that I'm willing to put my neck out and say the entire draft apparatus has failed miserably, and that NFL teams will have a fundamentally different view of this player, and not to his benefit, than the draft quote-unquote experts, which I guess I have to include myself in, though I will not do a mock draft at all this year, because mock drafts, while fun and democratizing, you should go and do a mock draft if that's what you're into, but they are fundamentally stupid. They're fundamentally dumb. When has it ever gone the way someone has predicted? John Lynch isn't right about many things. Okay. John Lynch isn't right about all the things. But I'll tell you this, he was certainly right about this quote. You get into the draft and then sometimes a draft breaks out. Do you really think that all 32 of those picks are going to stay static? Do you really want the opinion of some random CBS sports guy telling you, oh, this trade's going to go down in the first round? Are they doing trades on day 4? Or when they do their 7-round mock drafts, are they getting into the weird trades there? Or are they simply going, need, fill with position need? I don't believe that AI is coming to take anybody's job, least of all mine. How could you possibly recreate this genius? But frankly, most of these mock drafts can pretty simply be done by a large language model. You put in the team needs, you put in the order, you put in the draft players, you maybe code it up a little bit so that you can see which schemes some players might be best for, and then you hit go. It's empty calorie content. I talked about that the last time we were on. I maintain my stance. You can go back and listen to it. Maybe it's online, maybe it isn't. I don't need to repeat myself any more than I already do. 3 underrated, 3 overrated. Let's start with the underrated players, guys that I am higher on than consensus. And I'm going to start with Chris Brazzell, the wide receiver out of Tennessee. I think Chris Brazzell is the second best wide receiver in this class. It's Carnell Tate, who I have as my number 3 overall player, a just wonderfully polished, not perfect, but extremely high floor. Very high ceiling prospect out of Ohio State, Carnell Tate. He will be nowhere near the 49ers in this draft. He's going early. The second best receiver in this class, and there are some pretty good first-round caliber players. If I'm looking at it now, hold on, let me click on this. I had 5 first-round caliber wide receivers with a very high second-round grade on a Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama, who I'm a big fan of. I comped him to Mo Sanu, which, complimentary. Mo Sanu was a hell of a football player. And I can imagine, very easily imagine, Jeremy Bernard, should he somehow find his way to 58, or maybe the Niners trade up a little bit, making his way to Santa Clara for rookie minicamp on the second weekend of May. But Brazzell is the second best wide receiver in this class, in my estimation, because he's a true X with crazy lightning speed. And this is the thing that I think most people underrate when they do whatever they want to call as analysis. Deceleration. Nobody puts on the brakes quite like Chris Brazzell in this class. And that, for an X receiver, so when we're talking X receiver, we're talking lining up on the line of scrimmage, typically around or outside the numbers. It's all about deceleration. You're running deep routes. You're trying to bring the safety over to your side of the field on every snap, if not both of them. You are trying to shift the field in your direction. To do that and also have the ability to create separation requires elite level deceleration. You got to put the brakes on, because they're just going to keep stepping back, in the words of Chris Berman. They're just going to keep running with you because they think you have to go all the way to the end zone. And if you can stop on a dime, turn around, come back, cut in, do whatever the hell you want, they're not going to be able to do that. There are few, if any, cornerbacks on this planet who can make the same moves that Chris Brazzell can make moving forward, going backwards. And it is fundamental and dramatically overlooked when we talk about wide receivers, and it is so hard to find true X receivers that can do it at an elite level. This guy can do it at an elite level. The knocks on Chris Brazzell are this. There's some off-the-field question marks, okay? I'm not going to get into them because a lot of times when that stuff comes out in April, some of it's true, some of it's false, some of it is just Howie Roseman in Philadelphia trying to muddy the waters. So I can't verify. I don't have subpoena power. I don't have a polygraph test. I can't verify if that stuff is true or not. You hear stories. You have to gauge it however you can gauge it. And I have decided a long time ago that I can't be the morality police with this. I'm not going to knock anyone for not taking him, but I'm certainly not going to knock anyone for taking a player like this, even though there are quote-unquote character concerns. My concerns, or the concerns that have come across my desk with Chris Brazzell, I find to be fundamentally unfounded. The two of them are, he only plays the right side of the field. And 2, he takes reps off. And to that I say, Y'all don't know about Tennessee football, do you? And I'm not talking about the Titans. I'm talking about the Vols. And Josh Heupel, their offensive coordinator and head coach, who frankly should be tried at The Hague. I hate his system so much. I'm not saying this is a good system. I am merely saying it is the system. Their goal is to go full UNLV running Rebels on you. Their goal is to go full Loyola Marymount on you, Paul Westphal. They're trying to go. Their goal is, yes, to score touchdowns, but more importantly, to run as many offensive plays as possible. And the way that they do that is they never substitute. Remind you of any defenses the 49ers played last year? They never substitute. Now, they also have a scheme that's basically an RPO scheme where everything is sort of towards the middle of the field. Quarterback can run it, hand it off, or do a little pop pass. So they play effectively 2 X receivers. They play 2 guys outside the numbers, way outside the numbers, and on the line of scrimmage. And they basically turn the game into 9-on-9. If not, 9-on-7, because the safeties have to take care of those X receivers over the top. And you never substitute. So you have 2 true X's, Brazel being on the right side, which is, of course, the strong side for your quarterback, the one that he's looking at down the field. Brazel over there, I can't remember the name of the guy who was over on the left, and they're just going. Their job is to go. It's not a complex route tree. They don't go over the middle. They just go. They run 9 routes on damn near every play, and sometimes they'll toss in a dig, but it's really just 9 routes. And what they have been coached to do, and as someone who watches SEC football at an ungodly rate, they have been coached to take plays off when the ball's not coming their way. Is that good coaching? No. Is it the coaching? Yes. So when Brazel looks like he's dogging it, that is by design. It really is. Now, he might dog it once he gets to the NFL too, because you train somebody a certain way. It's hard to break that training sometimes. But that's the coaching. That's the coaching, and that's for the 49ers or 31 other teams to determine if that is something that is systemic or something that is built in now to Chris Brazel, endemic with him. I think it's systemic. And when I look at the way that he, is able to run those routes, those 9 routes, those quick turnarounds, those dig routes, I see somebody who that translates perfectly to X receiver at the NFL level, and somebody who can, in a way, replace Brandon Ayuk. So he always stays on the right side and he takes plays off. That's the Tennessee system. That's certainly not the 49ers system. But I can imagine him in the 49ers system, again, being a Brandon Ayuk replacement. And let's not forget the 49ers plan. When they drafted Ricky Pearsall late in the first round 2 years ago, they still had Deebo Samuel on the team. And a lot of people, not including myself, by the way, you can check the tapes on this. I was a big fan of that Pearsall pick, and I will buy your Ricky Pearsall stock. But a big reason why the Niners did that is because Kyle Shanahan is very difficult on young wide receivers. He's difficult on all wide receivers, but it takes a year or two. It does. Remember Brandon Ayuk in the doghouse? I mean, even Deebo, they needed to go trade for Emmanuel Sanders so that he could guide him on his journey, because they needed him now. They needed one, Sanders' temperament to help Deebo, because, get this, Wes Welker wasn't a very good wide receivers coach. And 2, they needed Emmanuel Sanders' production immediately. But they needed, Deebo played a lot, especially in the Super Bowl there in 2019, but that was not how the season started. They didn't just throw him to the Wolves. He earned those reps. At, by the way, like 3rd wide receiver. So you have Deebo, but they knew that Deebo's time was limited. They knew that Deebo only had so many more snaps of effectiveness, and they were right about that. And their idea was, we're going to get Pearsall, who can be a more dynamic option than Samuel, which maybe more dynamic's the wrong term. A different look at the same position. He can give us some of the yak ability. Kyle has put him in the backfield before, put him in weird spots before. He'll never be Deebo, but Deebo's a one of one. Think about how many guys you've heard about in the draft. Oh, he's the next Deebo Samuel. How's that working out for them, by the way? Has any of them actually turned into the next Deebo Samuel? If someone tells you that this player is the next Deebo Samuel, cross him off your board. One of one player. The idea was this will be our next Z receiver. And we can do a lot of the stuff that we like to do at Z, a lot of the stuff that we do at Z with Debo. We can do this with Pearsall a year from now once he learns how to be a wide receiver for Kyle Shanahan. And then we're going to have Brandon Ayuk at X, Ricky Pearsall at Z, and we will figure it out at flanker, whether it's Jawan Jennings or whomever. We will figure it out at flanker because really that's just a third down position. That's a sub-package player. We can figure it out there, and there's a lot of slot receivers coming out of the college ranks right now because they're typically in 4 wide receiver sets. And a lot of guys who play wide receiver now are in the Amon-Ra St. Brown mold, where you really don't want him outside the numbers. You really don't want him at the line of scrimmage. You want that free release. Whereas Pearsall can play X. You don't really want him to, but he's really more of a Z. He definitely could play flanker, but that's, again, conversation for down the line when this roster is more complete. They're obviously not getting what they expected to get, what their contract that they signed with Brandon Ayuk told everybody that they thought they were getting. Brandon Ayuk might technically still be on this team, but he's not on this team. He's gone. It's just a question of where he goes and how he gets there. He ain't coming back here, right? You ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here. Brandon Ayuk said it first, and now they have an understanding. So you need an X receiver for the future. And you might go, Dieter, they just signed Mike Evans, to which I say, look at the contract. That's a 1-year deal. It might say 3 years, much in the same way that, Kirk Cousins got somehow a 5-year deal from the Raiders, but actually you look at it, it's a 1-year deal. Mike Evans is the X receiver for this upcoming season. Now, maybe they extend it. Maybe they, play it out a little bit further. Maybe it's a year and a half. Maybe it's 2 years. We don't know. Mike Evans could be great. He could be dog water. I don't know. We're going to find out. It's a big bet. But that's the bet that they had to make because there was no other viable alternatives at X if you want to move Ricky Pearsall to Z where you always thought he was going to be. And especially where he should be after you watch his last game against the Seahawks in the playoffs where Seattle saw him at X receiver and said, chum in the water, and just started pushing him around. You need your Brandon Ayuk replacement. It doesn't have to be a 1-for-1 with Brandon Ayuk, though Chris Brazel's pretty damn close. Long speed, great catch radius, ability to stop on a dime, good blocker, a lot of things that you like. A lot of things that are Ayuk-like with Chris Brazel. You let him sit for a year, get some, spot minutes here or there, a series here or there early. Maybe he grows into it. Maybe he's quick to learn, in which case now we can figure it out. That's a good problem to have. But you buy him this year, be it at 27 or 58. I venture to say 27 is going to be where you're going to have to get him, though who knows? Who knows? Maybe Howie's muddied the waters just enough. You give him the redshirt year, you let him learn the nuances of the game, like, I don't know, how to play in an NFL offense from Mike Evans. And then next year you have Pearsall at Z and Brazel at X. And it's not Ayuk and Pearsall like you expected, but it's pretty damn close. I'm a big fan of Chris Brazel. I think that he is going to be a dynamite player, maybe a fringe all-pro down the line. He's my second best wide receiver in what is a pretty top-heavy and quality wide receiver class. Guy I don't like, wide receiver, Omar Cooper. I think Omar Cooper is a fine player. I think he's overhyped. You watch the tape, and it's a lot of bubble screens. It's a lot of quick digs in the RPO. These are not things that will translate to the 49ers game. That's not something that they do. He doesn't have the kind of athleticism or the route running craftiness to think that this is going to translate the stuff that he did at Indiana into the NFL, particularly into Kyle Shanahan's scheme. He's a good player. He's a smart player. I think he'll be in the league for a long time. But it's a good but not great floor. And he's honestly, his draft stock seems to be based a lot in the fact that he's a little slippery in the open field. He's very hard to bring down, good center of gravity, all these things. If you want to take him in the second round, knock yourself out. But there's a lot of conversation about Omar Cooper maybe being the pick at 27. I've heard him going as high as 13 to the Rams. Now, again, how much do we want to read into that? Viewer discretion advised. I just do not see an NFL game-breaking player. I see much lesser version of a DJ Moore. And we saw what DJ Moore was for the Bears this past year. That's what I think you're getting with Omar Cooper from the jump. That's what I think you're that's the ceiling in a lot of ways for Omar Cooper. I have him as my 50th best prospect. He's still a good player. It wouldn't, if the Niners get him at 58, I wouldn't bat an eye at it. I think that's a more fair place to get him. Again, I have him as my 50th best player. It's just a high floor, and I think a pretty damn low ceiling. And whenever, again, I see the Deebo Samuel comparison, I know that you just don't have enough there. There's not enough there. Because when people can immediately say, oh, he looks like Deebo, well, no, he doesn't, and no, he can't. So Omar Cooper is an overrated player in this draft. I would 10 times out of 10 rather have Chris Brazzell than Omar Cooper, and that is 49ers agnostic. Let's go defense. A guy that I love, and I loved him since the moment I laid eyes on him. I mean, sometimes there is a love at first sight thing with these players, and maybe the Potter Stewart argument. I know it when I see it. Chris Johnson out of San Diego State is that dude. He is just exceptional at everything. At everything. He's so damn good. He plays the game at 3x speed when everyone else is playing at 1x. He dominated the Mountain West. When he played higher competition, he dominated those games too. There's some questions about his physicality in the run game. I really like him in the run game. He's not a great blitzer. I don't care. He's playing outside corner. Elite length, elite speed, deceleration, again, something that's very, very important and I think is completely overlooked by most people in this bloviation period that is NFL draft time. Deceleration is incredible. He's never on his back foot. He is consistently mirroring. He is consistently jumping routes because he knows that's where the ball's going. He is, again, playing the game at 3x speed when everyone else is at 1x. And I'll add this into the mix. Elite special teams player. To the point where he asks to play special teams at San Diego State. Best player on the team asking to play special teams because he's smart enough to know, hey, maybe teams don't love my tape. Maybe I'm not that guy. If I'm going to make it in the league, I better show them that I can do everything and that I can be a good bit player, that I can make an impact on the field as a rookie, even if I go to a team that's got a loaded up CB room. Let me show him how good of a special teams player I can be. If you draft him strictly for the special teams, he's worth a day 2 pick. You add in the fact that he looks like an early career James Bradbury, and there is no pick too early outside of the top 10 for Chris Johnson. He is my number 18 overall player. I have him as my number 2 corner overall. I am such a fan of Chris Johnson at San Diego State, and he's not a player that I hear anybody talking about right now. Chris Johnson is that guy, total stamp of approval. Meanwhile, a guy that I don't like, as much as it seems the draftniks out there seem to care for, is TJ Parker. He's a defensive end out of Clemson, and again, kind of like with Omar Cooper, I don't see it. He does everything fine. That's great. That's not worth a first-round pick to me. It just isn't. He's basic. He's simple. He uses his size and his athleticism and doesn't really give you anything more than that. And that's cool when you're at Clemson and you're playing the ACC. But when you get to the NFL and you haven't developed anything beyond I'm bigger and stronger and faster than you, you're going to find out pretty quick that these guys in the NFL are bigger and stronger and faster than you. He's just not a game changer. I think that, again, he'll be in the league for a long time, but as a bit guy, as somebody who's second on the depth chart for a long time, he's just not a round one upside guy for me at all. Very reminiscent of Cleve Farrell, who's a good player. Good player. Shouldn't have gone in the first round. Sure as hell shouldn't have gone in the first round. Much less, I think, 3-4 overall. Parker's not being talked about in that realm, but I've seen anywhere from 20 down. I just don't see it. I don't see it. And when I look at him compared to, 7 different guys at defensive end, I'd rather have them. Obviously, would rather have Reuben Bain. Obviously, would rather have Arvell Reese. Would rather have David Bailey, though I'm lower on Bailey than most. Akeem Messidor, I'd rather have, the Miami inside-outside threat. Zion Young, I'd rather have. Romello Height, I'd rather have. Keyron Crawford, I'd rather have. He's like a fourth-round player. I'd rather have Keyron Crawford. I'd rather have Gabe Jackas out of Illinois. And then I would much rather have another player, the final player, that I am much, much higher on than consensus. Give me Keldrick Falk. Give me Auburn's Keldrick Falk. You don't want him? I'll take him. Because they basically took Markel Williams and made him weirder. And again, you might not think Markel Williams is very good. Good luck with that take at the end of this year. Really, good luck. If you want to sell your Markel Williams stock, I'm still buying it. I love the discount. Love it. Can't get enough of it. Markel Williams is an absolute dude. He's a one-man run-stopping machine. And Keldrick Falk is a bigger, stronger version than him. And I loved his tape from 2 years ago when they had him actually as a true defensive end, and he is just firing. And he's making things happen. Insane strength, insane length, insane game wrecker ability from the inside or the outside. This past year, Auburn's defense had a lot of serious talent on it. Their defensive coordinator, DJ Durkin, might be my least... I cannot say on the radio how much disdain I have for watching DJ Durkin coordinate the Auburn defense this past year. What on earth was he doing putting Keldrick Falk at nose guard and playing Keyron Crawford, who I'll just toss in here, is super underrated and I think is going to be an absolute steal of a player. He basically stood him up and had him play linebacker. This is a true hand-in-the-ground, fire off the edge, extension, bend, all the things you're looking for pass rusher, and he's like, what if we played him at Mike? Except what if we lined him up at defensive end on every snap first? Keldrick Falk, who should be just a dominant, strong side defensive end, run stopping, splitting gaps, going around the outside, a stunt monster, had him lined up at nose guard, taking on triple teams. By the way, he did a great job at it. Either of these Auburn guys, but Falk certainly more than Keyron Crawford, to be sure. You actually put them in a coherent NFL system with coherent NFL coaching, and they are going to explode. I cannot get enough of Keldrick Falk. There's a world in which he's the best player taken at any position in this draft. There's a world in which he's a first rounder, and, well, we never think about him again because there is some Tyree Wilson in there. But the upside here with truly elite frame, truly elite movement ability, man, incredible. And because he had bad coaching, he's probably going to fall out of the top 20. Now, maybe there's a team that's smart enough, or at least on my same wavelength, to say, let's do this thing. And I think that team's going to be rewarded. But if the Niners are anywhere near him at 27, if the Niners see him hanging out at 21, 22, get on the phone and go get this guy. Because you can play him inside, you can play him outside, you can play him anywhere. And you can make him your sub-package third-down pass rusher that slides Bosa over to 5-tech, Mikel to 3, and Osa Odigizua to 1. You can make him your 9. Heavy hands, run-stopping ability, incredible anchor, long arms, great burst. I'm really high on his first step, much higher than most. I think Keldrick Falk is going to be an absolute dude. And I just don't think that many teams are seeing it right now. I know that the draft nicks aren't seeing it. And finally, I'll give you two guys that I just couldn't be more out on. I have read in many places that the Niners should take Denzel Boston out of Washington with pick 27. I'm here to tell you full stop, they should not do that under any circumstances. Denzel Boston is my 70th rated player. And that was a certain point of deference. That was a certain point of, I guess I got to do this. Here are the wide receivers that I have above Denzel Boston on my board. Watched every one of them. I've watched at least 3 games of all of these guys. Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, Chris Brazzell, Mekhi Lemon, Casey Concepcion, Jeremy Bernard, Jacoby Lane, Omar Cooper, Ted Hurst, big sleeper Ted Hurst, Antonio Williams, Skylar Bell, Malachi Fields, Deion Burks, and there's Denzel Boston. He's slow. He's full stop slow. There's a reason that he didn't run the 40 at his pro day or at the combine, because he knows it ain't going to help him. He's soft. I know I shouldn't be throwing that out there because I don't know the man's character. I've never met him. I didn't watch him practice this and that. But he plays soft. plays soft, gets bullied at the line of scrimmage. He's bigger and supposedly stronger and faster, and yet he keeps getting bullied at the line of scrimmage in Big Ten play. Doesn't have any suddenness to his route running. His route running is loose, to say the least. He can make some contested catches now. I'll give you that. They're all contested catches with this guy because he can't separate. He does not separate. You find me a clip where Denzel Boston has separated from his corner, and I'll send you $1. The reason that Denzel Boston is being considered a first-round pick is twofold. One, Teteroa McMillan wasn't a great separator last year and ended up winning Rookie of the Year. Teteroa McMillan played 10 times harder, 10 times stronger than Denzel Boston. You knew going into the draft, Teteroa McMillan, I was not the biggest fan of because of the separation stuff, but I had a first-round grade on him. I had an early first-round grade on him. Because, no, he didn't separate, but you want to talk about a contested catch monster, like in a Jawan Jennings plus realm. That was Teteroa McMillan. Denzel Boston isn't in that category. But what he did do was catch a lot of lob passes in the corner of the end zone. And while that is a valuable skill, I don't think it translates to the NFL level. I don't think it translates at all. You want to throw a 50-50 ball at the NFL level? You're not going to like what that other 50 does. And by the way, he doesn't catch the ball well. Denzel Boston, I do not get at all. Do not get it at all, and I'm staying away. I can't put an undraftable grade on him because it is a strong combination. Strong's the wrong word. It is a good combination of size and possible speed, though I really do question if it translates. So I can't put an undraftable grade on him, but he's a day 3 guy to me. A day 3 guy. And here's a guy who I don't think should be drafted. And yet I saw bandied about as a first-round pick not that long ago. And that's Lee Hunter, the defensive tackle out of Texas Tech. What is it that Lee Hunter does well? 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. What is it that Lee Hunter, defensive tackle out of Texas Tech, does well? Because I'm still looking for it. I watched a ton of Texas Tech film because they have a boatload of NFL draft talent. That's the best team money could buy. Didn't get them that far, but it's the best team money could buy. And I love both of their Well, I don't love Bailey. I would have preferred, Bailey feels like a late first rounder to me. He's going to go top 5, top 10. But regardless, him, height, good players. Rodriguez behind him, great player. Like their safeties, like their corners. That's a hell of a defense. And Lee Hunter is in there because he's wide. He's wide. And because he got a couple of one-on-one reps against undersized centers at the Senior Bowl, and a one-on-one rep is a very slanted sort of drill. He got one-on-one reps in the Senior Bowl against guys who were tackles that then they threw to center or guards, and he ran them over. That's cool. You should. Didn't do that to anybody on his game tape. Didn't move the pocket at all. Just clog space, and isn't particularly great at that because he's not a gargantuan human. He's not an Alfred Collins type where if he's taking up space, that space is taken. He's just sort of there. And when I watch him, I go, what is it that this guy does that Evan Anderson doesn't do? Evan Anderson, undrafted free agent, Florida Atlantic University, 49ers practice squad. What is it that he does that Evan Anderson can't do? And the answer is nothing. Nothing. And if someone were to have put Evan Anderson in their first round because he had 3 good reps at a Senior Bowl against guys who, by the way, aren't getting drafted at center, what would that have looked like? It would have looked like enough to disqualify that person's opinion, and yet that seemed to be a widespread opinion. I don't think that Lee Hunter gets drafted until the 6th or the 7th round. I used to actually feel like it was a hot take to say 5th. I tested that around the league. I'm going with 6th or 7th. And he will have, in the last 2 months, have been mocked by serious people who say that they do this for a living as a first-round pick. And people, why? Why did he might only get drafted because of Daniel Jeremiah had him in the first round weeks ago. By the way, he's dissuaded himself from that notion, but that data is still in the system somewhere. And a bad team like the Browns or the Jets or the Raiders, they're going to look and say, man, he was a first-round pick. Why hasn't he been taken yet? Maybe we should take him. Huh, that's interesting. We should take him. Yeah, we should take him. And now congratulations, he's a Indianapolis Colt. 6th or 7th round. And by the way, I think that this draft ends somewhere after the comp picks in the 4th round. After that, it's just UDFA prioritization. And you can cut anyone after that. The second that Harold Perkins, the linebacker from LSU, gets taken, that's when the draft's over. Everybody after that, again, you're just getting priority on them as a UDFA. And frankly, you shouldn't expect any of those guys to make NFL rosters. So there it is. 3 underrated, 4 overrated, 3 underrated. Give me Keldrick Falk, Chris Brazzell, and Chris Johnson. Give me the Chris's. And sell on Omar Cooper, who is a 2nd-round player, maybe a 3rd-round player, but is being talked about as a 1st-round guy. TJ Parker, same boat. And Denzel Boston, same boat there. And then absolutely torpedo the stocks on Lee Hunter. I've gone on too long. It's time for a break. Kurt and Buck with you until 9 on The Sports Leader.
We want your reaction, so give us a ring or blow up the text line at 415-808-KNBR. This is Sports Phone KNBR, streaming live at twitch.tv/The Sports Leader.
All right, that's going to do it for us here on Sports Phone KNBR. I'll be back with you on Thursday. We'll be breaking down Warriors play-in tournament stuff and so many more things, including a Giants day game. Let's thank the great Kyle Haar for one of the ones and twos this evening. Always a pleasure to work with the great Kyle Haar, who I guess has Dubs OT tomorrow. The last Dubs OT of the season, to be determined. Thanks to everybody who called in, texted in as well. Always a pleasure to be with you here on The Sports Leader, and we'll do it again in just a couple of days. Until then, good night, Jeff Passan.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, The Sports Leader.